Chapter 268. If Hive's vigilance was just a little bit higher, for example, he would have chosen to run away the moment he saw Rog. In that case, he might still have a sliver of a chance to survive. Unfortunately, thousands of years of exile had caused him to lose the vigilance that he should have. Hive, who was completely wrapped in the spherical space, didn't completely despair at this time. Although he didn't know what Rog was going to do next, he was confident in his ability to survive. It's nothing more than a change in the place where I'm imprisoned, this won't scare me. After looking at the disgusting sphere floating in front of him, Rog once again activated the reality cube. The reality gem does have the ability to modify reality, but to maintain the modified reality, it also needs a constant supply of energy. Rog wasn't a Kree, and he didn't plan to exile or imprison Hive. Killing Beehive was his real goal. Using a completely enclosed spherical space to completely trap Hive was only the first step of the plan. The reality cube in Rog's hand once again shone with a strange dark red light, and a half-meter wide circular portal appeared in front of him. Using the reality cube, Rog built an interstellar portal that was opened by the cosmic cube during the Battle of New York. Compared to the portal built by the cosmic cube, the portal built by the reality gem was much smaller and less stable. But Rog didn't care much about this. What he needed now was a one-time teleportation portal that could connect to outer space. Whether it was stable or safe, he didn't care at all. When the half-meter wide portal was completely formed, Hive, who was trapped in the spherical space, finally realized something. This guy didn't want to imprison me. After realizing this, Hive in the spherical space began to surge wildly, trying to find an escape that didn't exist. Hive's survival ability was indeed very strong, and he could safely survive in places where most creatures couldn't survive. But this didn't mean that he could survive in any environment. Vacuum or outer space was an environment where he absolutely couldn't survive. I've already asked if you have any last words, so this time, I'll just say goodbye. As soon as his voice fell, the right hand formed by chakra grabbed the floating spherical space and threw the spherical space mixed with human flesh, clothes, and the parasites of the Hive into the portal that had just been constructed. The basketball-sized spherical space drew a beautiful arc in the air and then fell directly into the portal. Perfect hit. When the spherical space passed through the portal and entered an unknown place in outer space, Rog ended the maintenance of the portal. The portal that emitted a faint blue light disappeared as if it never appeared. After the portal closed, Rog was forced to end the maintenance of the spherical space. The terrifying distance in space increased the energy required to maintain the spherical space. As a meticulous person, and in order to kill the Hive as soon as possible, Rog cut off the energy supply without hesitation. Without a continuous supply of energy, the spherical space that violated the laws of nature could not continue to exist. So, in a corner of the universe, the basketball-sized spherical space shattered with a bang. The human remains and the Hive itself in the space welcomed the warm welcome of the outer space environment. Rog had no interest in what would happen to the Hive in outer space in the vacuum environment. At this time, he summoned the tablet specially modified by Hinata from the summon scroll. The black boulder can open the space channel connected to the planet Tatooine, but because the planet Tatooine is constantly rotating, the location of the space channel is different every time. So to ensure that he can return to Earth smoothly, Rog asked Hinata to perform a series of preliminary experiments and calculations to calculate the time and place of each opening of the space channel. The tablet in his hand recorded the corresponding opening time and channel. According to his request, Hinata at the Konoha headquarters will open the space channel every hour, and each opening will last for 3 minutes. It has now been more than half an hour since he came to Tatooine, so he has to rush to the next opening location of the channel in the remaining 20 minutes. Quantum transmission. At this time, Rog once again thanked Gordon for his free quantum transmission ability. After more than 20 minutes, Rog, who easily solved the problem of the Hive, returned to Earth. Hinata, we can now start the second phase of the Tatooine plan. After returning to the Konoha headquarters, Rog gave the latest order to Hinata. Although he hasn't yet figured out how to develop Tatooine, this doesn't prevent him from making some preparations in advance. Okay. The steel engineering team and construction materials of the Tatooine hidden village have been arranged. In a month, the initial establishment of Konoha Hidden Village will be completed. Under the control of Hinata, robots of different shapes were activated, and boxes of packed construction materials were continuously sent into the transmission channel built by the Black Boulder. Rog didn't tell anyone about the establishment of Konoha Hidden Village on Tatooine. In the entire Konoha, only he and Hinata know about the existence of this plan. In order to keep it a secret, he didn't use anyone except Hinata. Even the construction robots were redesigned and specially produced by Hinata according to the design principles of Ultron and Mark III. Construction materials were purchased in the name of Konoha, and there was no need to hide these common construction materials. Even if someone found out that Konoha had purchased a large number of construction materials, it was impossible to know that Rog was secretly building Konoha Hidden Village on Tatooine. While Hinata was secretly building the Konoha Hidden Village, Rog was also continuing to practice his Susanoo, hoping that he could reach the third form of the Black Tengu armor as soon as possible. However, his cultivation plan was soon interrupted again. According to the feedback of Konoha's intelligence department, an alien life form that he listed as a key observation target was suspected to have appeared in San Francisco, and it caused a certain amount of damage in San Francisco. Konoha's Special Operations Team in San Francisco has set off at this time, but they haven't captured the alien life form that caused the riot. In the past 6 months, there have been more and more riots caused by this kind of suspected superpower or special life form. If the Battle of New York made people all over the world know that there are many special people in this world that are unknown to people, then, the sole incident caused by Ultron is equivalent to completely opening the stage of this kind of special event. All kinds of superpower criminals and illogical events happened one after another. Even those criminals who only want to rob and bully ordinary people on weekdays have embarked on a different path of upgrading. Chapter 269. Under normal circumstances, the riots caused by this kind of special event would not be reported to Rog, but would be handled by Konoha's Special Operations Team. However, Rog once reminded the intelligence department that once the special event he mentioned was discovered, he must be notified as soon as possible. So this time, the riot caused by a suspected alien life form in San Francisco was directly reported to him. There weren't many special events that Rog could specifically request attention to. Up until now, there had only been 2. One was an alien life form that was suspected to have the ability to change its form, and the other was a skeleton with flames all over its body. Of course, this was only a general description of the intelligence department. What he really wanted to pay attention to was actually Venom and Ghost Rider. However, he couldn't tell the intelligence department about Venom and Ghost Rider, so he could only let them pay attention to similar events. San Francisco, alien life form. If there was no accident, this should be the Venom he had been waiting for a long time. Or rather, a symbiote. Because of him, the timeline of this world has become more and more different from what he remembered, and he wasn't even sure if the people and events in his memory would still happen. After carefully browsing the information submitted by the intelligence department in his office, Rog put this special event in San Francisco under his name. At present, there were only a few people in Konoha who were qualified to lead a team to solve special events. Punisher and Abomination were his earliest subordinates, and now they were the main force of external operations. Gecko, Kara and Daisy would also deal with some tasks that were not so difficult. Kurenai Tank didn't admit that he was a member of Konoha yet, but he was basically willing to do the tasks assigned to him. As for Pietro and Walter, Rog didn't list them as operatives at first. However, Pietro, who couldn't stay idle, took the initiative to apply to join the operations department and now became a captain of the operations department. After 6 months of hard work and constant appearances, Pietro finally got his own title. Konoha Quicksilver. Although this title didn't sound as good as Konoha's White Fang, it was still a good title. Walter also went on several missions with Quicksilver, but they were all ordinary missions that weren't very difficult. Perhaps it was because of Walter's personality, but he wasn't very interested in fighting and didn't use his superpowers as often as Pietro did. Walter's decision made Rog feel much more at ease. Walter's ability was indeed very strong. At its peak, it could even surpass the reality gem. However, the greater the power, the greater the possibility of losing control. Rog didn't want Walter to say that there were no more superpowers in Konoha. After putting the incident in San Francisco under his own name, others would not intervene in it. Unless Rog couldn't handle it or took the initiative to ask for help. After reading all the information collected by the intelligence department, Rog set off directly. Through the surveillance video at the scene of the riot, as well as the videos taken by the onlookers, he could basically confirm that the ones who were currently jumping around and causing riots in San Francisco were the symbiotic demons. As for whether this symbiotic body was venom, further confirmation was needed. After all, symbiotic demons looked similar, especially when they were of the same color. They gave off the feeling that they were twins. Quantum teleportation. A brilliant aurora-like light appeared, and then Rog's figure completely disappeared. At the same time, an equally brilliant light appeared on the top floor of a certain building in San Francisco. Once again, he had to thank Gordon for his selfless contribution. He had to admit that Gordon's quantum teleportation ability was really useful. Although it was far inferior to flying Thor in battle, it was very useful for long-distance teleportation. San Francisco was a world-famous tourist destination. It was one of the most important high-tech R&D bases in the world and the most important financial center on the west coast of America. The population here wasn't as terrifying as New York, but it was still shocking. There were almost 1 million people living in San Francisco. It wasn't easy to find a person who was possessed by a symbiotic demon but hadn't transformed. Rog wasn't interested in sensing them one by one, so he adopted a very simple method: wait. From the current situation, the symbiotic demon was clearly looking for something. At the same time, the symbiotic demon was being hunted by an unknown organization. In Rog's memory, it was the Life Foundation next to the Golden Gate Bridge that brought the symbiotic demon to Earth. However, this was just his previous memory. After knowing that there was a Life Foundation in San Francisco, he asked Konoha's intelligence department to pay attention to this foundation. In particular, they paid attention to the Life Foundation spaceship launch plan. Unfortunately, this Life Foundation had no interest in life outside the Earth, nor did it have any intention of exploring the stars. Therefore, this symbiotic demon incident really had nothing to do with the Life Foundation. After admiring the environment of San Francisco from a condescending position, Rog took out a pair of sunglasses and put them on. From the outside, this is a pair of ordinary sunglasses. At most, it looks a bit expensive. But in fact, this is a pair of sunglasses specially modified by Hinata. Through this pair of glasses, Rog can contact Hinata at Konoha's headquarters at any time. The lenses can also present real-time virtual interactive images, making it convenient for him to browse various documents and information sent by Hinata at any time. Obviously, this idea was based on the smart glasses Edith that Tani hasn't designed yet, but will design sooner or later. After putting on the glasses, Rog directly teleported from the top floor of the building to the alley next to it, and then strolled in the streets like a tourist. The symbiotic demon suspected to be Venom is hiding somewhere, but he will definitely appear again. When he appears again, it will be time for Rog to make his move. While strolling, Rog didn't stay idle and asked Hinata to investigate all the information about Eddie Block. The emergence of the symbiotic demon may have nothing to do with the Life Foundation, but one thing will not change, that is, the fate of the host. As long as the fate of the host does not change dramatically, some things are destined to happen. For example, Tani will become a superhero, or Eddie Block will become the new host of Venom. Currently, Hinata has partial authority from the military, the Ministry of Defense, and other departments. These authorities were specifically authorized to Konoha's Intelligence Bureau by the military, the Ministry of Defense, and other departments. In addition to Hinata, Konoha's Intelligence Bureau occasionally uses these special authorities. It didn't take long, to be precise, less than 30 seconds, all the information about Eddie Block appeared in the lenses of the glasses. Chapter 270. Eddie Brock, who previously worked for the New York Daily Globe, was a somewhat famous reporter. Because of an unconfirmed false report, he lost his job and reputation, was labeled as unreliable, and was ostracized by his peers in New York. In order to bid farewell to the past, and to get his life back on track, Eddie Brock moved from New York to San Francisco and became a field reporter for the local news channel in San Francisco. With his excellent professionalism, Eddie quickly gained a foothold in San Francisco, and even had his own news column. Simply put, Eddie Brock is a mature man who has experienced a low point in his life and relied on his own efforts to regain his honor. Except for a major professional accident in New York, there is nothing abnormal in Eddie Brock's life record, and he doesn't even have many parking tickets. If you only look at this information, it would be difficult for Rog to associate Eddie Brock with Venom. Although from the information, Eddie Brock doesn't seem to be the kind of person who would commit crimes with extraordinary powers, Rog still insists on his own opinion. If the symbiote that caused the riots in San Francisco is really Venom, then the host of Venom must be Eddie Brock. Because this is the fate of Eddie Brock. Investigate Eddie Brock's whereabouts in the past few days. I want to know what he has been doing in the past few days. After issuing the latest instructions to Hinata, Rog turned off the virtual projection on the lens and began to wander around the streets and alleys of San Francisco like a real tourist. Taste the signature dishes of famous restaurants, enjoy the scenery of famous scenic spots, and respond to fans' requests for photos. If it weren't for the fact that he would occasionally perceive the special lifeforms nearby while wandering, Rog would look no different from a real tourist at this time. And in the process of wandering, he realized for the first time that being too famous was not a good thing. Although he has rarely performed tasks in public as the fourth Hokage recently, even so, it has not reduced his popularity among the people. After signing nearly 100 signatures and enduring more than a dozen female fans with hot figures and hot personalities, he finally dispelled the idea of wandering around with his real face. At night, the Golden Gate Bridge. Rog, who changed his appearance with the transformation technique, stood at the top of the bridge, overlooking downtown San Francisco. By hacking into San Francisco's city surveillance system and the various surveillance cameras on the road that can be connected to the internet, Hinata sorted out the specific whereabouts of Eddie Brock in the past few days. Although the scene of the symbiotic demon's transformation was not captured by the surveillance camera, it was basically certain that the host inside the symbiotic demon was Eddie Brock. Now that he had confirmed that the host was Eddie Brock, the identity of the symbiotic entity was obvious. Venom. Venom claimed to be the loser of the symbiotic demons, but it had the power to contend against the leader-level riot. The identity of the symbiote and the host has been confirmed, but Hinata did not investigate which organization appeared to be capturing Venom. The weapons and equipment used by the captors were not common goods commonly seen on the market. It could even be said that these weapons and equipment were custom-made products. Not only that, but Hinata also discovered that the weapons and equipment used by these captors had never appeared in any country before. In addition to the custom-made weapons and equipment, the combat accomplishments shown by the captors were also amazing. Even compared with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s action teams, there was no obvious gap between these captors. Custom-made weapons and equipment, excellent capture teams, these all prove one thing, that is, the organization that is now targeting Venom is not a third-rate character. A mysterious organization with good research and development capabilities and excellent operations personnel. Rog began to be interested in this mysterious organization. Based on what he had always done, any organization that piqued his interest usually didn't have a good ending. Rog had just given Hinata an order to continue investigating this mysterious organization when a strong explosion occurred in downtown San Francisco not far from him. The flames of the explosion rose into the sky, like a small mushroom cloud standing in the bustling city. As soon as the strong explosion came, Rog directly teleported to the street where the explosion occurred through quantum transmission. The originally lively street was now a mess as if it had been through a long war. Broken windows, burning vehicles, crumbling houses. Just looking at the scene in front of him, it was impossible to believe that this would be downtown San Francisco. The streets were filled with pedestrians who had been affected by the explosion. Around these injured or dead pedestrians, there were many combatants in black uniforms and combat helmets. Rog ignored the captors of these mysterious organizations and quickly scanned every corner of the street. It didn't take long for him to find the target he was looking for in a broken ruin. A humanoid black body, a mouth full of sharp teeth, and a pair of iconic big white eyes. Rog's gaze had just focused on Venom when Venom, who was pressed under the brick, felt something and looked up at Rog. The moment he saw Rog, Venom seemed to have seen an indescribable horror. His big white eyes suddenly shrank, and then he jumped up and ran wildly without looking back. What's going on? Venom's abnormal behavior stunned Rog. Although he didn't know why Venom was so scared, Rog had no intention of letting him go easily. Venom, who was nearly 3 meters tall, used both hands and feet to run wildly on the streets of San Francisco like a beast. Venom, what's wrong? As the host, Eddie Brock asked quickly. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. The person behind us is very dangerous. Venom, who was running wildly, replied with a serious tone. The person behind us? There is no one behind us. Eddie Brock just wanted to continue asking when he saw Rog in front of them. Although it was Venom who was controlling his body now, this did not affect him from using Venom's senses to observe the outside world. Venom's running speed was not slow, but it was undoubtedly a pipe dream if he wanted to get rid of Rog. After using Lightning Body Blink a few times, Rog easily overtook Venom and blocked Venom's path in advance. Fire Release Grand Fireball. Without any hesitation, Rog directly spewed out a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters. The huge orange-red fireball flew towards Venom like a cannonball. Chapter 271. For a long time, fire release has been described as smokeless and can't burn people to death. However, this situation will never happen to Rog. Although he didn't count carefully, the number of people who died under his fire release attack is not small. Among them are many Warnerheim Protoss warriors whose physique is far beyond that of the Earth's humans. Seeing the huge fireball with a diameter of 3 meters coming towards him like a cannonball, Venom quickly began to change direction. This level of fire attack, not to mention Venom himself, is afraid of fire attacks. Even if he doesn't have the weakness of fire, he doesn't intend to use his body to resist the fireball. Venom's limbs suddenly exerted force, and his whole body jumped high like a flea, trying to directly avoid the oncoming fireball. However, Rog's attack is not so easy to avoid. Under normal circumstances, Grand Fireball can only be used in a straight line attack, and it is very easy to avoid. This is why fire release ninjutsu is underestimated. Ninjutsu that can't hit the target, or ninjutsu that can be easily avoided, is a ninjutsu that has no practical value. Therefore, in order not to waste the ninjutsu he used to exchange for Grand Fireball, Rog made some improvements to the Grand Fireball jutsu. The Grand Fireball jutsu is indeed not much of a threat. But what if the Grand Fireball can change its trajectory? In order to change the trajectory of the Grand Fireball, Rog borrowed some of the techniques of Fire Dragon Bomb. Chakra can control the direction of the Fire Dragon Bomb, making it extremely difficult to avoid. Since the Fire Dragon Bomb can do this under Chakra's control, then Grand Fireball naturally has this possibility. After a series of tests and practical operations, Rog successfully mastered the method of controlling Grand Fireball with Chakra. Venom, who jumped high, just breathed a sigh of relief. Then he saw the huge fireball that should have continued to fly forward suddenly change direction and flew straight towards him in the air. Bad. The air is not the ground, there is no place to borrow strength here. Although the sudden change of direction completely disrupted Venom's rhythm, Venom still didn't give up. Venom's hands shot out a black spiderweb-like substance that flew like lightning towards the houses on both sides of the road. As long as a black spider silk sticks to the house, Venom can swing out of here like Spider-Woman Gwen. Venom's response wasn't wrong, but he underestimated the flying speed of the fireball and overestimated the speed of the black spider silk. Boom! Venom's hands had just shot out black spider silk when the huge fireball hit him like a heavy truck, and the orange-red flames instantly engulfed his entire body. Although the temperature of the Grand Fireball is not very amazing, it is completely enough for Venom, whose weakness is flames. Venom, who was engulfed by the orange-red flames, fell heavily to the ground. His whole body rolled crazily as if he had lost his mind. Relying on his Sharingan, Rog can clearly see that Venom's black body is rapidly shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. If the flame lasts a little longer, Venom will completely change back to Eddie Brock's appearance. But fortunately, the flame of the Grand Fireball only lasted for 2 or 3 seconds before it ended. When the orange-red flames completely dissipated, Venom seemed to have successfully lost weight, shrinking from nearly 3 meters to about 2.5 meters. In addition to the obvious change in his body shape, Venom's spirit seems to have suffered serious damage. He knelt on the ground weakly, sticking out his long tongue and gasping for breath. For some reason, looking at Venom's current appearance, Rog suddenly felt a little unbearable. However, he quickly threw these thoughts to the back of his mind. Although Venom looks miserable now, with his healing ability, it won't take long for him to recover completely. Rapid recovery and regeneration are as simple as breathing for the symbiotic demons. Sure enough, within a few seconds, Venom, who was kneeling on the ground, began to expand rapidly, expanding back to his previous 3-meter-high appearance. Do you want to fight here and then talk? Or should we skip the fight? Rog came to Venom and asked in a calm tone. He didn't intend to kill Venom. If he wanted to kill Venom, he didn't need to do it himself. The reason why he came to San Francisco was that he had some deals to discuss with Venom. Who are you? I never talk to guys who pretend to be other people. Although Venom couldn't see through Rog's transformation technique, he was sure that Rog had used some kind of mysterious disguise. This is not a special ability, it is purely an intuition that he has obtained after living for a long time and experiencing too many things. My name is Rog, if you like, you can call me Yondaime Hokage. Rog directly reported his identity, but he did not remove the effect of the transformation technique. After hearing Rog's reply, Venom did not answer immediately, but began to search the memory of the host. Whether it was Rog or Yondaime Hokage. For Venom, who had just arrived on Earth and was inexplicably hunted as soon as he arrived, they were all completely unfamiliar existences. After roughly figuring out the identity of Rog through the memory of the host, Venom gave his answer. Where are we going to talk? Of course, we are going to the hotel to talk. As soon as the voice fell, the light of quantum transmission emerged from Rog's body, and then completely enveloped Venom. After the brilliant aurora-like light disappeared, the figures of Rog and Venom also disappeared completely. Then, a luxurious hotel suite appeared in front of them. This suite was specially reserved by Rog during the day. After looking around the environment in the suite, Venom went directly to the sofa in the living room and lay down directly. The black Venom on the white sofa. Although Venom's image and movements were a bit dazzling, Rog didn't say anything about it. You can't use Earth's etiquette to ask an alien creature, it's unreasonable. Boom. When Venom lay on the sofa like a master, Rog also lifted the effect of the transformation technique, revealing his true face. I want to know, how did you come to Earth? Did you come here alone, or did you come with your own kind? In addition, how can I find your symbiote? It's just a symbiote, Rog is not interested in it. But if it's a group of symbiotes, or thousands of symbiotes, it's different. Chapter 272. You want to capture the symbiotic demons? Venom did not directly answer Rog's question and asked with interest. Isn't this obvious? Not to mention that the symbiotic demons can greatly increase the host's strength, just the peculiar life form of the symbiotic demons is enough to make people interested. Rog was not surprised that Venom could see through his plan at a glance. Although Venom said that he was the loser of the symbiotic demons and was the weakest existence among the symbiotic demons. But this was just him being modest. How can a guy who can make a name for himself and his race be a real loser? A real loser can't have the popularity of Venom at all. And how can the weakest guy in a race have the power to compete with a commander? Strength is status. The more strength you have, the higher your status. No matter what race, this is a common standard. Why should I help you, anyway? They are my kind, I don't think I need to help you. Venom, who was lying on the sofa, carefully looked at Rog and said silently. If it is under normal circumstances, you really don't need to help me, but unfortunately, it is not normal now. After speaking, Rog paused for a moment, and then continued, after experiencing the events of the past few days, you should also be very clear that you are now being watched. Judging from the weapons and equipment they use, the people who are now capturing you have enough understanding of the symbiotic demons. Although you can still jump around, you are only one person after all. Even if you can hold on, your host may not be able to hold on. If my perception is not wrong, your current state is not very ideal. With your current situation, how many times do you think you can escape capture? Once, twice, or 3 times? Symbiotic demons have amazing regeneration and repair abilities. Even if it is a broken limb, or even a fatal injury, the symbiotic demons can recover to normal in a short time. It's just that this world is a reasonable world. If you want to get something, you must pay something. There was nothing that could be obtained without paying a price. Even the infinity stone that can change the laws of the universe is the same. The symbiotic demons did indeed possess astonishing regeneration and repair abilities, but this regeneration and repair ability was not obtained out of thin air. Although Rog did not know what method the symbiotic demons used to complete their regeneration and repair, there was one thing he was certain of. There was a limit to the regeneration and repair of the symbiotic demons, and a certain price had to be paid. After comparing the life energy intensity of Venom before and after being attacked by the fireball, he was even more convinced of this point. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would betray my own kind for my own safety? Venom snorted in disdain. Do you think you're the kind of person who would sacrifice yourself to protect your own kind? Rog asked. The atmosphere in the room began to become a little awkward. After 2 or 3 minutes of silence, Venom spoke again. First, I came to Earth through a meteorite. Secondly, apart from me, there are 3 other guys who came to Earth with me. They are Howl, Fear, and Rip. Thirdly, those 3 unlucky fellows have already been captured. If you want to find them, you can only look for the people who captured them. If you want to find more symbiotic demons, you can only go to the universe to find our home planet. The home planet is the only planet where we can live normally without possession. As for the specific location of the home planet, I don't know. Venom answered the 3 questions raised by Rog at the beginning, and then fell silent again. After listening to Venom's answer, Rog frowned slightly. Excluding Venom, there are only 3 symbiotic demons, which is a lot less than he thought. This number is a bit far from the symbiotic demon army he wants, very far. You can only live freely without possession on the home planet, then how did the 4 of you survive on the meteorite? Rog asked his doubts. The meteorite was a stone on the home planet. Howl and I were discussing something on the stone, and an inexplicable space channel appeared around us and sucked us in with the stone. Then we were near the Earth, sucked in by the Earth's gravity, and finally came to the Earth. Venom briefly explained the ins and outs of the matter. From his tone, it can be heard that he was also speechless about his experience. But this is also understandable. Think about it, if you stay at home and are inexplicably teleported to a completely unfamiliar planet, your mood will also become very bad. An unexpected disaster. Venom and the other 3 used their own personal experience to prove what is called bad luck. Excuse me for asking, how big is that stone, and the 4 of you are not all men, right? From the names, Venom, Howl, Fear, and Tear are all typical male names. As far as Rog knows, the reproduction of the symbiotic demons seems to be asexual, so he is a little curious about why the 4 of them appeared on the same stone. Put away your strange thoughts, we are different from humans. We don't have your strange hobbies and primitive reproduction methods. In the following time, Rog asked some questions about the symbiotic demons and the symbiotic demon's mother planet. If he remembers correctly, on the symbiotic demon's mother planet, there is a fierce man who cut off the head of a member of the Kagami group with a sword. The god of symbiotic demons, Nar. Of course, when mentioning the god of symbiotic demons, he has to mention his famous sword, the Black Death Sword. He doesn't know if the Black Death Sword is now in the hands of the God Slayer. If there is a chance in the future, he can inquire about the relevant information. After reaching the initial cooperation agreement with Venom, Rog used quantum transmission to bring Venom back to Konoha's headquarters. Before the mysterious arrest organization is solved, Venom will live in Konoha's headquarters for a while. Konoha will protect Venom's safety, and Venom will provide the information Rog wants. After arriving at Konoha's headquarters, Venom removed his transformation form and returned control of his body to Eddie. After arranging a room for Eddie and Venom to live in, Rog returned to his office and issued the latest order to the intelligence department. Search for the mysterious organization that captured the symbiotic demons. According to Venom, they were teleported to the outside of the Earth by an inexplicable space channel. But Rog always felt that things were not that simple. The reason is simple: the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization are a bit wrong. Chapter 273. The time doesn't match. Although the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization during the capture were not particularly high-tech, it was not something that could be designed and produced in a short period of time. According to Venom, they had only been on Earth for a few days, and not long after they landed on Earth, they were captured by the mysterious organization. Combined with these circumstances, it was not difficult to infer that this mysterious organization knew about the existence of the symbiotic demons early on and knew when the symbiotic demons would come to Earth. Therefore, Venom and the others, who inexplicably came to Earth, encountered such a professional capture team. There are only two possibilities for the mysterious organization to arrange the plan to this extent. One is that they can predict the future. The other is that the bizarre encounter of Venom and the others was planned by them. Rog first ruled out the possibility that the mysterious organization could predict the future. Predicting the future, this is a super advanced power that involves time. Unless this mysterious organization has mastered the time stone and mastered the correct use of the time stone, it is impossible for them to have the ability to predict the future. If this mysterious organization really has the ability to predict the future, they would not have the idea of the symbiotic demons. Compared with the ability to predict the future and time, the symbiotic demons are obviously several levels lower. If it is not the ability to predict the future, then there is only the second possibility. This mysterious organization single-handedly planned the appearance of Venom and the others and forcibly brought them from the symbiotic demon's mother planet to Earth. Of course, the mysterious organization may not know the identity of Venom and the others. For them, this is similar to fishing in the sea: they can catch whatever they want. It's just that Venom and the others had bad luck and were caught by the mysterious organization. Although this will involve the problem of space channels. However, compared with predicting the future, space channels and so on are obviously much easier and more realistic. Under the full search of Konoha's intelligence department, this mysterious organization that has never appeared in the past finally revealed some clues. Because of time, although Konoha's intelligence department did not fully grasp all the information of this mysterious organization, they still dug out a lot of valuable information from it. Oscorp. After a series of investigations, Konoha's intelligence department found that this emerging mysterious organization was inextricably linked to Oscorp. Whether it is the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization or the secret base used by the mysterious organization to hide their whereabouts, they are more or less related to Oscorp. After reading the information collected by the intelligence department in the past few days, Rog found that the symbiotic demons incident this time seemed to be a little more complicated than he thought. After the incident with the rhinoceros and the electric man, he thought that Oscorp would behave as a business giant and dispel the idea of extraordinary power. But now, it seems that Oscorp is not willing to be an ordinary normal company. Oscorp's main research field is in the field of biotechnology, and symbiotes are special life forms with superpowers. It can be said that the symbiotic demons of Oscorp's dreams. In this case, Oscorp's T of the symbiotic demons of T of the mysterious organization. Although the relationship between the mysterious organization and Oscorp has not yet been fully determined, Roger has decided to go to Oscorp in person. Come to think of it, Oscorp is also his old rival. No, it's not an opponent, it's an old helper. Whether it's Dr. Connor's Super Lizard Serum or Gavin's Super Spider Serum, Oscorp has helped a lot and can be regarded as a great contribution. In particular, Oscorp's electric demon selflessly contributed himself, allowing him to develop several good lightning ninjutsu. After reading the information submitted by the intelligence department, Rog teleported to the public training hall of the headquarters and found Venom, who was wrestling with Abomination. He didn't know how Venom saw Abomination. Since Eddie met Abomination by chance a few days ago, Venom had a great interest in Abomination. In the past few days at Konoha's headquarters, Venom was basically online 24 hours a day, not giving Eddie any private time at all. After Venom took control of his body, he didn't do anything strange, he just inexplicably fought with Abomination. Compared with Abomination, 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 except for not competing with Abomination in terms of fire resistance, high temperature resistance, and resistance to sonic attacks, Venom basically has to compete with Abomination in everything. If he wasn't sure that Venom had no intention of changing hosts, Rog couldn't help but wonder if Venom intended to let Abomination be his host. Speaking of which, it was strange. The Abomination, whose appearance and body were equally shocking, had an unusual and powerful attraction to those with long tongues. Perhaps he had chosen the wrong charm point, but he had a strong attraction to those with long tongues. Dr. Connors is like this, and so is Venom. Do creatures with long tongues like big green guys? Just as Rog's imagination was running wild, Venom and Abomination also decided the winner of the arm wrestle. Although Venom's strength is good, compared to Abomination, especially compared to Abomination who has been strengthened by Extremis, his strength is still a little weak. Stop playing, it's time to go out and work. Coming to Venom and Abomination, Rog looked up and said to Venom. Although a little reluctant, Venom temporarily dispelled the idea of continuing to compete with Abomination. His long tongue danced towards Abomination a few times before he followed Rog out of the training hall. Through quantum transmission, Rog and Venom came to the top floor of a building opposite the Oscorp building. The person who arrested you before had something to do with Oscorp, but it is not certain whether it was the arrest team sent by Oscorp. So I'm going to let you meet the people of Oscorp and see what their reaction is. Rog's plan is very simple. In a word, it is to deliver the goods to the door and lure the snake out of its hole. Deliver the venom that Oscorp is interested in to the door, and then formulate the next step according to Oscorp's reaction. Are you sure this will be useful? If I really fall into their hands, will you come to save me? Venom has only fought with Rog once, the time when he was hit by Fireball. But before he fought, he already knew that Rog was a dangerous existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. This was also the reason why he ran away when he saw Rog. It's still during the cooperation period. I will guarantee your life and safety. You can rest assured about this. Although Venom looked like a ferocious monster and had the habit of biting off the enemy's head, he was a very cautious person, just like Roger. Especially when it comes to his own life. Chapter 274. If I am caught, you must come and save me. Before leaving, Venom once again reminded Rog. Go, you're a big man, why are you still so timid? He doesn't know if the previous arrest operation left a psychological shadow on Venom, or if he is this cautious character. Rog always felt that the Venom in front of him was completely different from the Venom in his memory. The Venom in his memory was a fearless guy. Even if it was a leader-level riot, he would still fight. Even if his physical fitness is not as good as the riot, he has no fear. After getting a positive answer from Rog again, Venom was still not at ease. He looked back 3 times and kept turning his head to look at Rog behind him. When Rog's patience was about to run out, Venom, who was nearly 3 meters tall, finally showed a domineering aura that matched his image. Like a hunter preying on his prey, he jumped directly to the Oscorp building dozens of meters away. Rog is not worried about Venom's jumping ability. Even if he can't jump over, Venom won't die from this height. What's more, Venom is also a guy who is very good at using various weapons and props. The black Venom drew a beautiful parabola in the air, and then crashed into one of the floors of the Osborn building like a baseball that had been hit. Not long after Venom broke into the Oscorp building, a shrill alarm sounded in the Oscorp building. Along with the sirens, gunshots rang out one after another. Perhaps because it was in the Oscorp building, or maybe because the guards inside did not prepare heavy weapons with great lethality at all, only gunshots came from the building, there was no sound of shells or bombs exploding at all. Time passed little by little, and the floor where the gunshots came from was constantly changing. Within a few minutes, several police cars with flashing lights appeared downstairs of the Oscorp building. the first batch of New York police arrived. At the same time, a beautiful white figure also appeared in the distant building and quickly approached the Oscorp building where the alarm was ringing. Spider-Woman Gwen. Since it was in New York and the target of the attack was the Oscorp building, it was normal to attract Gwen. At this time, Spider-Woman was already a well-known superhero in New York. In New York, whether it was the Fourth Hokage, Iron Man, Captain America, or other superheroes, they were all less popular than Spider-Woman. According to what Rog knew, New York's government was even considering promoting Spider Lady as New York's hero. Gwen didn't know that this riot was planned by Rog. She thought that this incident was just like the cases she had dealt with before, just an ordinary crime. However, when she saw Rog standing opposite the Osborne building, she knew that this time things were not as simple as she thought. As one of the women who knew Rog best, Gwen knew very well that with Rog's character, if it wasn't a particularly important matter or a commission, he basically wouldn't be interested in these criminal cases. Since Rog was at the scene and he had no intention of making a move, it meant that this incident was very likely planned by him. "Why are you here? Is there a problem in Oscorp?" After swaying to Rog through the spider silk, Gwen asked. "It's not a big problem, I'm just interested in some things in Oscorp." For Rog, this is not a big problem. Whether it's Venom, who is now rampaging in Oscorp, or the 3 symbiotes who are likely to have fallen into Oscorp, they are not particularly interesting to him. 3 or 4 symbiotes can't meet his ambitions. 30 or 40,000 symbiotes or Nar, the god of symbiotes, meet his requirements. Won't the action inside hurt innocent civilians? Gwen asked worriedly as she glanced at the Oscorp building opposite. "Don't worry," I told him. After hearing Rog's answer, Gwen put down some of her worries a little. However, her eyes never left the Oscorp building where gunshots and sirens were ringing. Although Gwen has power beyond ordinary people, she is different from Rog. Her concern for ordinary people is far above Rog. Although Rog will not deliberately involve ordinary people in the battlefield when he acts, he will not let himself be restrained because of these ordinary people. This is the main reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. previously gave him a lack of sympathy for the weak evaluation. But Gwen is different. She is like a real police officer, and she is the kind of police officer who puts the safety of ordinary people first. Roger had warned Gavin many times before, warning her that such an approach could easily cause her to suffer unnecessary threats and harm. But no matter what he said, Gwen still insisted on this approach. In Rog's view, Gwen's approach was completely unnecessary, but perhaps it was because of her persistence that she was able to gain more support and love in New York than Rog and the Avengers. "Don't worry too much. Although the guy inside is bloody and violent, he won't do anything to innocent people. He also has principles." Looking at the still worried Gwen, Rog opened his mouth to comfort her. "Although Venom doesn't look like a good person, there is one thing he will never do, that is, hurt innocent people." The riot in the Oscorp building continued, and Venom also wantonly destroyed the Oscorp building in an almost crushing manner. At this time, Harry Osborn, who was in a secret research base of Oscorp, was observing everything that happened in the Oscorp building through real-time monitoring. Venom seems to have found something, and he actually took the initiative to come to us. As the chairman of the Oscorp group, Harry Oscorp was very clear about the origin of Venom, or rather, he was the one who brought Venom and others to Earth. According to the original plan, these symbiotes who came to Earth would become Oscorp's latest research material. But no one thought that with full preparation, Venom actually broke out with strength far beyond their imagination, forcibly breaking through the encirclement and successfully avoiding several subsequent pursuits. As a result, the symbiote capture plan, which should not have alarmed any organizations and forces, became a San Francisco special creature invasion event. What's more troublesome is that after the failure of the last capture, Oscorp completely lost news of Venom. Looking at Venom's wanton destruction in the Oscorp building on the screen, Harry Osborn's face became extremely gloomy. Chapter 275. They actually used such an obvious trap to test our reaction. It seems that the guy who took Venom away didn't put Oscorp in his eyes at all. Although Harry Osborn didn't know who took Venom away, he was sure that Venom's appearance in the Oscorp building had something to do with the guy who took Venom away. Harry Osborn didn't particularly care about Venom's wanton destruction in the Oscorp building. Even if Venom completely destroys the Oscorp building, it won't have any serious impact on Oscorp. It's just a building, it's no big deal if it's destroyed. What Harry couldn't accept was that the other party used such a simple and crude plan to test Oscorp. Venom, who managed to escape capture, wouldn't show up on his own initiative with such fanfare, let alone set the location of his appearance in the Oscorp building. Even if Venom found out that the arrest team had something to do with Oscorp, he would never take such a crude revenge action. According to the feedback of the three symbiotes, Venom is not only not the kind of existence that will desperately fight for his own kind, but when necessary, he will not hesitate to abandon his own kind. If Venom's appearance was not his own choice, then why did he do it? His purpose was obvious. Since they want to play, let's play with them. Let the prehistoric Behemoth army and the Dark Thunder army set off, it's too much of a bait to not eat. Harry Osborn said in an indifferent tone, and a look of victory appeared on his gloomy face. Venom's appearance was obviously a trap. Harry Osborn knew this very well, but he still decided to cooperate with the other party's plan. Even if the trap is cleverly designed, it depends on who steps in the trap. Traps used to catch rats not only can't hold the king of beasts but also put the hunters who set the traps in danger. Oscorp is not an existence that can be provoked by a random person or organization. With Harry Osborn's order, a strange figure left the secret research base and quickly rushed to the Oscorp building. At this time, Venom was still jumping up and down in the Oscorp building, repelling the guards in the Oscorp building again and again. Venom seems to be looking for something, but the fact is that he has no goal at all. The reason why he hasn't left the Oscorp building until now is purely because of Rog's request. Before the target appears, you can't leave. These were Rog's words. Rog did not say what the consequences would be if he did not cooperate, but Venom had no idea of disobeying. Rog was very dangerous, Rog was very cruel, and Rog hated people who didn't follow orders. The first evaluation was Venom's instinctive intuition when he first saw Rog. The second and third evaluations were the factual evaluations that Venom got from Abomination after coming into contact with it. So even with the honorary title of a partner, Venom decisively chose to cooperate with all of Rog's plans. Wait a moment, there might be some superhumans or other special creatures. You don't have to do anything, just leave it to me. Rog suddenly said to Gavin. Calculating the time, it was almost time for Oscorp to show their cards. Rog was not worried that Harry Osborn would see that it was a trap, and he was not worried that Harry Osborn would deliberately not take action after knowing that it was a trap. Harry Osborn was not the kind of person who would endure, and to some extent, he could even be called crazy. Let the Rhino Man conduct a combat test in New York and let the Electric Man blatantly appear in Times Square. When he wanted to do something, he didn't have any misgivings. It didn't take long for 9 life energy signals that were completely different from those of normal people to appear in Rog's perceptual network. The perceptual network was a new habit he had developed in the past 6 months. After Chakra's perceptual range reached a certain limit, he set himself up with a more convenient passive perceptual method. The perceptual network was just a name he casually came up with. It was called the perceptual network, but it was actually a long-term maintenance of chakra perception. However, unlike chakra perception, which could reach hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, the perceptual network's perceptual range was only 5 kilometers in diameter. With his location as the center, maintaining a circular perceptual area with a diameter of 5 kilometers for a long time was the perceptual network. These 2 life energy signals, where do I seem to have seen them? Rog had a sense of familiarity when he sensed the 9 non-human life energy signals for the first time. If he remembered correctly, he should have seen similar life energy signals before. After a quick recollection, especially after connecting the 2 special life energy signals with Oscorp, he soon found the answer. Dr. Connors and the Electric Man. The life energy signals that were now rushing to the Oscorp building were very similar to the life energy signals of Dr. Connors. Interesting. Was this Oscorp's trump card? Dozens of seconds later, Rog saw the true face of the 9 life energy signals. 6 lizard men similar to Dr. Connors and 3 mutants similar to the Electric Man. Although Dr. Connors took away all the information about the lizard serum, it was clear that Oscorp had reproduced his lizard serum formula and created their own lizard men. As for the 3 mutants, they should be the Electric Man that was created in batches. Although there were certain accidental factors in the birth of Dr. Connors and the Electric Man, it was not difficult for Oscorp, which was good at biotechnology, to reproduce this accident. These lizard men and mutants did not find Rog and Gavin in the opposite building. Like special soldiers, they went directly to the top floor of the Oscorp building and then attacked directly. Unlike Dr. Connors and the Electric Man, who did not use weapons, these lizard men and mutants were like real special soldiers, with various weapons hanging on their bodies. Not only that, Rog also saw protective gear similar to bulletproof vests and armor on them. Obviously, they were completely different from human warriors, but they still built combat equipment according to the thinking of human warriors. Oscorp's approach was quite interesting. Obviously, the path Oscorp wanted to take was not the path of a personalized superhero, but the path of an organized warrior. Although this was a completely different path from Konoha and the Avengers, it perfectly met the requirements of human beings for an organized force. Chapter 276. 9 specially modified warriors with 2 completely different paths of strengthening. Oscorp used its unique advantages in the field of biotechnology to create its own army of enhancers. Although these enhanced warriors have not yet had any remarkable achievements and have not even been officially announced to the public. But it's not hard to imagine how the military and other organizations will react when they know about these enhanced warriors. For a large organization, especially the military, the enhanced warriors who can be mass-produced and have good combat power are the super soldiers they really desire. Rog and Thor's powerful and unique existence, will not be the military's first choice. Whether it's the military or other organizations, they need soldiers who can obey orders unconditionally, not Rog and Thor, who are independent and uncontrollable. No matter how strong their combat power is, they must be able to control it. Will your men really have no problem? Gwen asked with some concern as she watched the 9 obviously not human warriors break into the Oscorp building. At this time, Gwen did not know the existence of Venom. She thought that the person who destroyed Oscorp building was a member of Konoha. Don't worry, the guy inside is very tenacious. As long as they don't encounter a targeted fatal blow, the symbiotic demons can be regarded as an immortal cockroach. And Rog doesn't think Oscorp has any plans to kill Venom. Only living symbiotic demons have research value. When the 9 completely unlike human warriors entered the Oscorp building, the originally not-so-calm Oscorp building suddenly became more lively. Compared with the guards who only used ordinary firearms, the 9 enhanced warriors were obviously prepared. Even in the opposite building, Rog could see the burning flames. In addition to the flamethrowers, these enhanced warriors apparently also brought high-frequency sonic weapons specially designed for the symbiotic demons. It didn't take long for Rog to witness the scene of Eddie Brock, who had returned to his original form, being taken away by the enhanced warriors. But unlike when they first appeared, when these enhanced warriors left the Oscorp building, their number changed from the original 9 to 4. There were only 2 enhanced warriors with the appearance of lizard men left. There were also only 2 mutants with strange colored skin that occasionally emitted electricity. Fighting 1 against 9, and taking down 5 of them, even when the other side was fully prepared. Although Venom was defeated, the battle prowess he displayed was still very satisfactory. Rog did not stop these warriors from taking Venom away, or rather, this was the result he wanted. Delivering to the door didn't mean sending Venom to the Oscorp building, but sending Venom to the secret base of the Oscorp group. Using Venom as bait to fish out the real base of Oscorp, this is the real meaning of delivering the goods to the door. Of course, Oscorp can also send Venom to other bases to avoid exposing the real base. But that didn't stop Rog from looking for Oscorp's real research base. Using Venom as bait was just to find this research base faster. If Oscorp takes Venom to other places, Rog can also let Hinata and Konoha's intelligence department search for it. Unless Oscorp set up their research base on other planets, they would never escape the search of Hinata and Konoha's intelligence department. This is nothing more than a matter of how much work they do. When the four enhanced warriors quickly left New York with Eddie and Venom, Rog did not follow them, but used chakra perception to confirm the Flying Thor technique on Eddie. He had intended to leave a technique on Venom, but Venom's special form made him dispel the idea. The Flying Thor technique can't be fixed on Venom, which has no stable form and can change back and forth, so he can only leave the technique on Eddie. As long as Venom doesn't leave Eddie, then Eddie's location is where Venom is. As for whether Venom will be forced to leave Eddie's body, he only needs to pay attention to Eddie's life energy signal. Although Eddie, who was attached to Venom, did not seem to have changed in appearance, his life energy signal has changed significantly, which is completely different from the life energy signal of normal people. So as long as he pays attention to his life energy signal, Rog can know whether Venom is still in his body. When the Flying Thor technique on Eddie stayed in a location in the suburbs for nearly half an hour, he teleported over with the Flying Thunder God. He did not use the quantum transmission looted from Gordon, nor did he use the transformation technique to disguise himself. Oscorp is also an old friend, and as long as he does it, Oscorp can recognize his identity, so there is no need for disguise. In just a moment, he came from New York to Eddie's side and came to this secret research base belonging to Oscorp. Oscorp was well aware of the weakness of the symbiote, so they used a very clever way to suppress Venom in a state where he could not transform. At this time, what appeared in front of Rog was an enclosed space nearly the size of 2 basketball courts, and 2 teams of heavily armed lizard warriors and electro warriors. In this huge and somewhat outrageous enclosed room, there was also a huge display screen hanging. On the display screen was Harry Oscorp, the chairman of Oscorp, who has become famous in recent years. In addition, every corner of the room was filled with a mosquito-like buzzing sound. It was these ubiquitous buzzing sounds that made Eddie, who was tied to the chair, struggle as if he was possessed by an evil spirit. A black, petroleum-like substance constantly emerged and disappeared from his body. Obviously, these mosquito-like buzzing sounds were high-frequency sound waves specifically targeted at the symbiote. Rog looked up at the display screen hanging in the air and saw Harry Oscorp's unconcealable look of surprise. Although Rog has appeared in this room for more than 10 seconds, Harry Oscorp still hasn't recovered from the shock. How could it be him? How could it be the 4th Hokage Rog who took Venom away? Harry saw the picture of Venom being taken away on the streets of San Francisco, but he never thought that the person who used the strange transmission method would be Rog. Looking at Rog's smiling expression, Harry suddenly had a feeling that the whole world was against him. I just want to study the symbiote. How did this guy come out? Is this guy the natural nemesis of Oscorp? Was there still any reason in this world? Chapter 277. Looking at Harry Osborn's increasingly gloomy face on the screen, Rog shrugged helplessly. Although they haven't said a word yet, he can already guess what Harry Osborn is thinking. After a dozen seconds of silence, Harry Osborn suddenly said, "You all go down and turn off the sound wave instrument." He didn't know if he was hit by a bad fate, but Harry Osborn's tone became a little lonely. The 2 teams of heavily armed lizard warriors and electric warriors did not hesitate and left the huge room without looking back. "You want the symbiote too?" When only Rog and Eddie were left in this huge room, Harry spoke again. "Isn't it obvious?" Rog's answer made Harry's face even more ugly. Although Harry has not officially dealt with Rog, he knows very well that if Rog intervenes in the symbiote matter, then Oscorp can basically say goodbye to the symbiote research. Aren't you being too overbearing? The symbiote was discovered by Oscorp, and it was also Oscorp that let them come to Earth. You are indeed strong, but Oscorp is not the kind of existence that will be easily manipulated by others. Harry knew that there must be someone else behind Venom, but he didn't expect that the person behind Venom would be Rog. He deliberately arranged for the Lizardman warriors and the Electric warriors to capture Venom. He wanted to lure out the person behind Venom and capture Venom, the symbiotic demon that had escaped. Rog's appearance was indeed beyond his expectations and completely disrupted his plan. But even so, he had no intention of handing over the symbiote. The symbiote was the most important thing in Oscorp's next series of plans. So he would not hand over the symbiote, even if the person in front of him was Rog. You don't have to look at me like that, I'm not interested in the 2 or 3 symbiotes you have on hand. Rog certainly knew what Harry Osborn was worried about. He wanted a symbiote, but definitely not one of the 2 or 3 small shrimps in Osborn's hands. After knowing that there were hundreds of millions of symbiotes on the homeworld of the symbiotes and the god of symbiotes, it would be too unambitious to set their sights on the symbiotes in the hands of Oscorp. If you want to play, then play big. For example, completely conquering the symbiote's mother planet. You want to go to that symbiotic planet? After hearing Rog's words, Harry Osborn's eyes lit up and his brain began to work frantically. He was not a fool. If he were a fool, he wouldn't have turned Oscorp into a kingdom of his own. From Rog's words, he could tell that they could cooperate and even make a lot of money. It's easier to talk to smart people. That's right, I want to go to the symbiote planet. If you're willing to help me fulfill this small wish of mine, I don't mind bringing some symbiotic demons back for you. Even if Oscorp wants to reopen cooperation with the military, I can let Konoha speak for you. Since the establishment of Konoha's intelligence agency, most of the military's outsourcing orders have been directly digested by Konoha. Even a large part of it has been cancelled directly. Because of Konoha, many companies that had commercial cooperation with the military, such as Oscorp, have lost orders from the military. If it weren't for Konoha's strength being overbearing enough and Rog's own strength being tyrannical enough, those companies and organizations that have lost military orders may have already had the idea of hiring murderers. You give me venom, and I'll give you the way to the symbiote planet. If you can come back alive, I want an additional 30 symbiotes. After thinking about it carefully, Harry Osborn gave his own conditions. Venom can't be given to you, and even if I come back from the symbiote planet, how many symbiotes I give you is up to me. Rog refused Harry Osborn's conditions without even thinking about it. What an international joke, he really thought he was looking for cooperation. The reason why he calmly talked to Harry Osborn about this matter was nothing more than to save some effort. To put it bluntly, the current Oscorp was not qualified to talk about cooperation with him. According to your statement, you basically want me to give you the way to the symbiote planet for free. And even if you complete your goal and come back, I may not be able to get a return, because it depends on your mood at the time. Don't you think it's a bit too overbearing? Harry understood that Rog didn't have the idea of cooperating with Osborn from the beginning, he just wanted a way to go to the symbiote planet. Well, you don't know my style and Konoha's. Let's be direct, will you give it or not? Rog didn't take Harry Osborn's dissatisfaction to heart at all. Whether it was the Lizard Warriors or the Electric Warriors, in his view, they were just things to bully ordinary people. Not to mention that these 2 enhanced warriors were imitations, even their genuine Dr. Connors and Electric Man Max himself were only a so-so in terms of strength. Now there are 2 roads in front of Harry Osborn. The first is that he hands over the way to the symbiote planet, and then prays that Rog is a person with a good moral level, and hopes that Rog will give them a few more symbiotes. The second is that he would rather die than submit, and do his best to oppose Rog's overbearingness and maintain the dignity of Oscorp. Harry Osborn is a young man, but he is not the kind of young man who is full of vigor, so he quickly made a decision. Take Venom away, and I will send the relevant information to Konoha's headquarters. In addition, let me tell you first, the information we have is not complete. There is no way to establish a stable space channel, so if something happens, it has nothing to do with us. It is certainly impossible to win. At the beginning, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Thunder agents joined forces and failed to deal with Rog, so Oscorp is of course even more impossible. Although that battle was not open to the public, Harry Osborn is one of the few people who are qualified and able to know the specific situation. S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, Thunder agents was disbanded, and 3 helicarriers were destroyed. Hydra was the biggest scapegoat and was chased all over the world. Until now, he didn't even dare to show his head. It's really easy to talk to smart people. I accept Oscorp's kindness. After that, Rog grabbed Eddie, who was still a little depressed, and used quantum transmission to return to Konoha's headquarters. Chapter 278. Not long after Rog returned to Konoha's headquarters with Eddie, Harry Osborn transmitted the method to go to the symbiote's homeworld. Under the huge gap in strength, and in the face of potential benefits, Harry Osborn was not as hot-blooded as other young people, but made a wise choice that could benefit both sides. Rog was not particularly surprised by Harry Osborn's decision. Harry Osborn is a person who knows how to judge the situation. Compared with the future benefits and costs, face is not important. After receiving the information from Harry Osborn, Rog immediately asked Hinata to conduct systematic analysis and research. He didn't worry about the authenticity of the information, and Harry Osborn wouldn't do such a meaningless thing at this time. Letting Hinata do research and analysis is just to ensure that he can safely go to the symbiote's homeworld. He is indeed interested in the symbiote and the god of symbiotes, but he won't put himself in a dangerous situation because of his interest. A cautious ninja isn't just talking about it. Time passed day by day, and after repeated calculations and tests for nearly a month, Hinata finally calculated the relatively safe coordinates of the space channel. In order to build this space channel, Hinata also deliberately cut a piece of the black boulder that can connect to the Tatooine planet and used it as the main material of the space channel. In addition, Rog also used the Gem of Reality to cooperate with several tests, so that Hinata could calculate the space coordinates of the symbiote's homeworld faster. Even the Kree battleship, which has been renamed Golden Jack, became a test tool in Hinata's hands. On this trip to the symbiote's homeworld, Rog didn't intend to take anyone except Venom. In terms of strength, there are several people on Konoha's side who are stronger than Venom. But they don't have the ability to survive on the symbiote's homeworld. The symbiote's homeworld is not a planet suitable for human survival. Without the possession of the symbiote, humans can't survive on the symbiote's homeworld. At the beginning, Rog also intended to let Venom attach to himself so that he would have the ability to survive on the symbiote's homeworld. But in the end, he dismissed the idea. The reason is simple: he doesn't like the feeling of other creatures in his body. How should he put it? This kind of thing made him feel like his body had been seen by someone, and it was the kind that was seen by someone of the same sex. Therefore, while Hinata was constantly calculating the space coordinates of the symbiote's homeworld, he didn't stay idle and developed a new way of surviving in the universe for himself. Unlimited mode. Unlike the Sage mode of the Six Paths, Nine Tails mode, and Sage mode that could greatly increase one's combat power, the Infinite mode's increase in combat power was almost zero. The only use of Infinite mode was to allow the user to survive in outer space or on other planets with a completely different environment from Earth. To some extent, the Unlimited mode was equivalent to a multifunctional spacesuit that was suitable for any planet's environment. Since it did not involve the increase of combat power or the enhancement of the body, the difficulty of developing the Unlimited mode was not very high. Especially for Rog, who is used to developing messy things and has the 7 attribute chakra, the development of Infinite mode is not as difficult as the development of ninjutsu and genjutsu. After activating Unlimited mode, Rog's entire body would be covered by the 7 attribute chakra coat. At the same time, it would emit a bluish-white glow. Simply put, when he enters Infinite mode, he can survive in any environment without restrictions. In order to ensure the effect of Infinite mode, he also deliberately went to outer space several times to test it. Of course, he tested it with the shadow clone technique at the beginning. The results of the test were no different from what he expected. Except for the continuous consumption of chakra, the Infinite mode perfectly met all his requirements. After all the preparations were made, Rog and Venom, who entered the Infinite mode, walked into the space channel to the symbiote's homeworld without looking back. Rog and Venom will go to the symbiote's homeworld through the space channel, and the Golden Jack controlled by Hinata will use the jump points in the universe to approach the symbiote's homeworld little by little. According to Hinata's calculations, the Golden Jack will arrive at the symbiote's homeworld 10 hours later than Rog. When the Golden Jack comes near the symbiote's homeworld, Rog can return to the battleship through the Flying Thor or quantum transmission, and then return to Earth with the Golden Jack. There is no problem with the flow of the plan. The only thing to pay attention to is whether Rog and Venom can survive on the symbiote's homeworld until the Golden Jack appears. Regarding this, neither Rog nor Venom has any worries. Maintaining the Infinite mode for 10 hours is not difficult for Rog. Even in the midst of an intense battle, there would not be any problems. As for venom, of course, it is not a problem. The symbiote's homeworld is his home, and on the symbiote's homeworld, he can move freely without a host. So when going to the symbiote's homeworld, Venom deliberately left Eddie. Although Eddie Brock is a good host, this good host is on Earth. Eddie has no combat experience, nor does he have any extraordinary abilities. Bringing him along is purely adding a burden to himself. As in the past, Rog once again left Konoha quietly and began his lonely journey. Only this time, there is a chattering guide, Venom, beside him. After coming out of the space channel, the first thing that appeared in front of him was a completely unfamiliar scene. Unfamiliar sky, unfamiliar Earth, unfamiliar everything. Welcome to the homeworld of the symbiote. He doesn't know if it is a matter of habit, or if he likes the humanoid body. Venom did not change into any other appearance, but maintained the transformed form with Eddie. Let's go. I hope you are really as welcome here as you said. After looking around at the scenery that was completely different from the Earth, Rog, exuding a blue and white light, walked straight ahead. Looking at the excessively calm Rog, Venom licked his fangs with his long tongue, and then quickly followed. The purpose of Rog's trip to the symbiote's homeworld this time is very simple, that is, to capture as many symbiotes as possible, the stronger the better. If he can get the symbiote god, NAR, then of course, it would be the best. But he can only think about this idea in his mind for the time being. The symbiote god, NAR, is a fierce man in the true sense, a fierce man who can cut off the head of the Kami group with a sword. The famous void in the universe may be the head of this unlucky Kami group. Chapter 279. If there is a chance, I must go to nothingness to take a look and meet the famous collector of the universe. Rog's mind at this time was not focused on the unique alien scenery around him, but he was planning his future trip to the universe. Although there are many hidden big shots on Earth, if you want to increase your knowledge, you still have to go to the universe. Not long after they set off, Venom would talk to Rog about some things on the symbiotic planet from time to time. But as he talked, he lost interest in talking. No matter what he said, Rog's answers were basically, "Is that so? Understood, not bad, and pretty good." If someone else treated him with such a perfunctory attitude, Venom would have bitten off the other party's head. But the person who was perfunctory with him now was Rog, so all he could do was to shut up obediently. Rog, exuding a blue and white light, and the black Venom walked on the barren land without saying a word, like two lonely travelers going to a place of pilgrimage in their hearts. The symbiotic planet is not a normal planet. Although there are hundreds of millions of lives here, these lives are, without exception, symbiotic planets. So here, there is no need to have any idea of appreciating unique alien civilizations and strange alien lifeforms. Although Rog and Venom were silent, this does not mean that their journey will be quiet all the time. After walking for nearly half an hour, Rog and Venom finally met their first wave of enemies. Liquid-like irregular bodies, and strange tentacle-like organs of different sizes all over their body. This group of squirming creatures that look similar to a disgusting version of slime are the symbiotic bodies of this planet. Do you know them? Rog stopped moving forward and asked Venom behind him without looking back. In his opinion, these symbiotic bodies are basically no different from each other except for the color. But this is only his judgment as a human. As a member of the symbiotic body, Venom may have some unique recognition skills. I don't know them. Venom looked at the symbiotic demons in front of him seriously and gave an affirmative answer. As soon as Venom answered Rog's question, the group of pale yellow symbiotic demons closest to them suddenly turned into a humanoid form. Venom in his humanoid form was more than 3 meters tall, and the symbiotic body standing in front of them at this time was nearly a meter taller than Venom. You are Venom? The light yellow symbiotic creature seemed to be uncertain as it asked in a doubtful tone. Rog raised his head and looked at the pale yellow symbiotic body that was only 4 to 5 meters away from him. A curious look appeared on his face. The bigger the body, the stronger the strength. This was a very simple and common standard to judge one's strength. If the symbiotic demons also followed this standard, then his first prey had appeared. Who are you? Do you know me? Venom looked at the pale yellow symbiote and asked. You really are Venom. A few days ago, I heard that you and Howl were sucked away by the spatial rift. I didn't expect you to come back so soon. Is this creature your spoils of war? It doesn't seem to taste good. After that, the pale yellow symbiotic creature looked at Rog from head to toe and at the same time stuck out its disgusting long tongue. Venom didn't answer, but took a few steps back. Venom's strange action aroused the curiosity of the symbiotic creature, but before it could speak, a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters appeared in front of it. Fire release Grand Fireball. Boom! The next second, an orange-red flame soared into the sky. Although Rog didn't say a word just now, it didn't mean that he didn't understand anything. After experiencing the language barrier with Luo Nan the manipulator, he paid attention to the language problems of this space travel. Universal Language Translator. There were many universal language translators on the captured Carey battleship, and he now carried one with him. Although the symbiotic creature's language was very unpopular, it was still in the Carey Empire's language library. The orange-red flame only lasted for a short 5 to 6 seconds before dissipating. The duration wasn't long, but the damage wasn't low at all. Especially since the one being attacked was a symbiotic creature with 0 fire resistance. When the flame completely dissipated, the pale yellow symbiotic creature that was taller than Venom once again revealed its figure. Unlike Venom, who could still maintain his human form after being hit by the Grand Fireball, the pale yellow symbiotic creature shrunk back to its original form after receiving the Grand Fireball head-on, like a burnt bread. Rog looked at the motionless symbiotic creature in front of him in disbelief, and looked at Venom with a puzzled expression. What's this situation? Explain. Venom understood the meaning in Rog's eyes and immediately replied, for our race, body size has nothing to do with strength. Transformation ability and recovery ability are the criteria for us to judge strength. The more types of weapons we can transform into, the better the quality, the stronger the strength, and the same goes for recovery ability. This guy is obviously just an ordinary guy. Venom seemed to look down on the fellow who was killed by a fireball. His tone was full of contempt. Although he was also quite miserable after being hit by the Grand Fireball, compared with this guy who died directly, he was undoubtedly much better. What about the rest? Rog pointed to the symbiotic creatures that haven't transformed. They are all ordinary. Venom nodded with certainty. After hearing Venom's answer, Rog suddenly realized a problem. Although Venom's strength wasn't very strong in his evaluation criteria. But among the symbiotic creatures, Venom may already be a very famous powerhouse. This also means that the criteria for capturing the symbiotic creatures he set before may need to be greatly adjusted. According to his original plan, the symbiotic creatures that he can capture back to Earth must at least have the strength close to Venom. Otherwise, bringing these weak symbiotic creatures back is purely a waste of time and energy. Tell me honestly, what is your position in the symbiotic creatures? Don't tell me that you are just a weakling among the symbiotic creatures. The guy who died is the real weakling. Looking at Rog's serious look, Venom also put away his previous cynicism and said in a rare serious tone, at the army level, ranked in the top 10. Rog didn't know if it was his own illusion, but when Venom said this, he suddenly felt that Venom in front of him seemed to have changed into a different person. Not only did his momentum suddenly become stronger, but even his life energy intensity seemed to have improved a lot. Chapter 280. Top 10 of the army level? Although Rog didn't know how the symbiotic demons were divided into strengths, the name of the army level was quite good. At least it looked quite strong. How many levels are there in your symbiotic demons? Rog looked up at Venom with a curious look on his face. There are a total of 6, soldier, elite, general, army, lord, and king. Most of them are below the general level. The army level is still okay, and the lord already has the strength to command a region. As for the king, there is only one, and that is the one you want the most. Venom explains solemnly. At this time, he didn't have the unrestrained demeanor he had on Earth at all, and he was like a different person compared to when he was on Earth. Looking at Venom's rare serious look, Rog suddenly had a trace of curiosity about Venom's past. After looking at Venom several times, Rog asked again, "Top 10 of the army level, is it your previous strength or your current strength?" "Of course it's my previous strength. If I could maintain that strength all the time, how could I have fallen to this point? Although I can't maintain my previous peak state now, I can still have an outburst in a desperate state." At this point, Venom suddenly sighed, as if he was reminiscing about something. "While there is still time, tell me about your past, maybe I can help you restore your original strength?" Except for sometimes being talkative, Venom's personality is quite good. More importantly, Rog felt that Venom's current strength was a bit too weak and did not meet his requirements for team members. If Venom can further improve his strength, he doesn't mind helping Venom. "Are you sure you want to listen? My past is not as good as you think." "Of course." After getting a positive answer from Rog, Venom began to talk about his glorious and bleak past. Similar to creatures of other races, when the symbiotic demons were born, they were basically destined to reach the limit of what they could reach in this lifetime. To put it simply, the symbiotic demons are also a race that relies extremely on talent. Even if the talented symbiotic demons do nothing, they can slowly grow to the Lord level. As for the symbiotic demons with poor talent, even if they worked hard for their entire lives, they would only be able to reach the rank of elite or general. Venom's talent wasn't too bad. He was born with the strength of a general. This also meant that as long as he worked a little harder, he would be able to reach the army level. In the past, Venom had indeed grown to an army level and had his own symbiotic demon army. According to the life trajectory of the symbiotic demons, Venom at that time had basically reached the limit of what he could reach in this life. However, Venom was not willing to stay at the army level for the rest of his life. Venom was a symbiotic demon that was ambitious and had its own ambitions. Thus, Venom led his symbiotic demon legion on his journey of conquest. In other words, it was a journey to become stronger. For symbiotic demons, there were only two ways to become stronger. The first method was more commonly used and was also the current mainstream method. Relying on possession over and over again, he went through life and death battles that broke through his limits. If they succeeded, the symbiotic demons would be able to break through their own limits and grow to a higher level. Venom chose this method, so he took his symbiotic demon legion and took the initiative to go to the space crack again and again. Go to the new planet, possess the host, and keep fighting. If he died in battle, everything would be over. If he won, he would repeat the process again until he successfully broke through his limits. Through the naturally formed space crack, Venom went to one planet after another, and then returned to the mother planet alive again and again. In the end, Venom, who was originally ordinary among the symbiotic demons, relied on his own efforts to improve his strength to the top 10 of the army level. That period was the most glorious period of Venom's life so far. According to this development trajectory, Venom was very likely to rely on his own efforts to successfully break through to the Overlord level and become one of the few peak powerhouses among the symbiotic demons. According to Venom, there were hundreds of millions of symbiotic demons on the entire symbiotic demon mother planet, and there were less than 50 Overlord-level symbiotic demons. If there were no accidents, this would be a very inspirational story of struggle. But life was full of all kinds of accidents, especially man-made accidents. Just when Venom decided to set off again, he encountered a Overlord-level symbiotic demon. Then, the result was without a doubt, Venom lost, and he lost completely. This Overlord-level symbiotic demon defeated Venom, took away his army, and tore half of his body. The path that Venom chose to become stronger was to use life and death battles to break through his limits. In addition to this first, the most common way, there was a second, less common way, but more effective way. Devour a symbiotic demon that is stronger than yourself. Treat other symbiotic demons as food and improve your own strength by devouring them. This method was more effective than the first method that Venom chose, but it was also more dangerous. Since the other party is stronger than you, what qualifications do you have to devour them? Normally, this would be an extremely difficult thing to achieve. But if you have a overlord-level good friend, then it would be different. Generally speaking, there would not be particularly strong feelings between symbiotic demons, even if it was their own descendants. But there were all kinds of birds in the forest, and it was not particularly strange for one or two symbiotic demons to have extremely deep feelings for each other. In order to help his general-level good friend go further, this overlord-level symbiotic demon targeted Venom, who was in the limelight, and then the development of the story returned to the common routine. After losing half of his body, Venom's strength plummeted, and he could barely maintain the intermediate zone between general level and army level. And the symbiotic demon that devoured half of his body successfully broke through to army level. Since then, Venom's life has fallen from the peak to the bottom of the valley. Especially those symbiotic demons that he had offended before, they came to him one after another to seek revenge. If it weren't for Venom's rich combat experience and cunning enough, he would have died in revenge again and again. After listening to Venom's story, Rog was silent for a few seconds. He had to say that Venom's experience was a typical fall of a genius. The only difference was that Venom was not the protagonist in the novel. After his fall, he did not rise again, but stayed at the bottom of his life. Boom! Just as Venom looked up at the gloomy sky with a lonely face, a cloud of white smoke appeared out of thin air. Then, an unused commission scroll appeared in front of him. Entrust it, I will help you get back what belongs to you. Chapter 281. Commission. Venom took the commission scroll from Rog and couldn't react for a while. He looked at Rog blankly. Yes, commission. You have also lived in Konoha for a while. You should know that I sometimes accept commissions from others and help them fulfill some small wishes and so on. By the way, let me tell you, my commission completion rate is 100%. Rog originally didn't have the idea of earning ninja coins from Venom, but after listening to Venom's story, he decided to help the somewhat miserable Venom. He absolutely can't let unfair things affect the life of a good young man who relies on his own efforts to make progress. Although unfairness is the underlying logic of the world, Rog won't let this unfairness appear on the people around him. Isn't it just a Lord-level symbiotic demon? If he can't even deal with a Lord-level symbiotic demon, what qualifications does he have to have the idea of the god of symbiotic demons? According to Venom, the god of symbiotic demons is the only monarch-level symbiotic demon, which is a level higher than the Lord level. Are you sure? Holding the commission scroll that doesn't quite fit his body shape, Venom asked again doubtfully. Of course I am sure. I have already thought about the commission reward for you, 10 army-level symbiotic demons. I will help you restore your original strength, and you will capture 10 army-level symbiotic demons for me, and then we will be even. There are only a few things that Venom can take out as a reward. Instead of squeezing Venom, it is better to let him squeeze other symbiotic demons. And for Venom who has restored his original strength, capturing 10 army-level symbiotic demons will not be difficult. Ha 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 ha, since you have already planned everything, then I will accompany you to be crazy once. At worst, I will never come back again. As soon as his voice fell, Venom opened the commission scroll and quickly wrote. That's right, Venom wrote in English. Because he had only possessed Eddie, the only language in writing on Earth that Venom now knew was English. Not long after, Venom threw the completed commission scroll back to Rog. After receiving the scroll, Rog didn't even look at it before throwing it back into the channeling scroll. As soon as Venom finished writing, he saw the commission information in the system. Commission content: help Venom restore his peak strength in his complete state. Commission status: incomplete. Commission reward: 120 ninja coins. The reward given by the system was not very high. It was the same as the last time Jiang entrusted him with 120 ninja coins. After completing Jia Ying's request, he didn't use any ninja coins, so he still had 765 ninja coins. After completing Venom's commission, he only needs to take a few more missions, and he should be able to smoothly break through the 1000 ninja coins mark. At that time, he would be able to exchange for more expensive items. What's the name of the Lord-class symbiotic demon that tore apart half of your body? Don't tell me it's Riot. Rog asked casually after keeping the scroll. How do you know it's a riot? Do you know him? After hearing the name of the riot, Venom froze for a moment and quickly asked. I'm just guessing. Rog ended this topic in time, and then continued to walk towards the unknown distance. Looking at Rog's figure that was getting farther and farther away, Venom hesitated for a moment, and finally followed him. Rog and Venom ignored the symbiotic demons who had not left yet and did not dare to transform, as if they did not see them at all. Although there were bystanders present, they were not worried that these symbiotic demons would understand the conversation between them. They were all speaking English, and it was impossible for these symbiotic demons who had never been to the Earth to understand what they were saying. Moreover, sparing their lives would also help spread the news of Venom's return to the homeworld. Venom, who was at his peak, offended a lot of people, most of whom were army-level symbiotic demons. After all, if the difference in level is too big, it is impossible to have any interaction with Venom. So at this time, Venom was not only a guide, but also a bait. As for which symbiotic demon would be hooked, Rog and Venom would not care too much. When the two of them went straight into the distance at a leisurely speed, the news of Venom's return to the homeworld was also successfully spread out. More than an hour later, Rog and Venom welcomed the second wave of prey that took the initiative to come to them as they wished. Is this okay? Rog turned his head and asked Venom. Absolutely. Looking at the dark red symbiotic demon that looked like a 6-footed demon wolf not far in front of him, Venom replied silently. According to the process they had discussed before, the symbiotic demons that meet Venom's Devour standard will be dealt with by Rog. When he beats the symbiotic demon half to death, Venom will forcibly devour the other party, and then use this to restore his own strength. If the symbiotic demon encountered does not meet the Devour standard, then Venom will deal with it himself. The symbiotic demons whose strength has reached the army level will first be beaten violently, and then imprisoned in the container prepared by Hinata. As for those whose strength has not reached the army level, of course, they will be killed directly. For Rog's trip to the symbiotic demon's mother planet, Hinata specially designed 100 sets of detention containers. These 100 sets of containers specially designed to imprison the symbiotic demons are now quietly stored in Rog's summon scroll. 1 minute. You can now think about what to eat next. As soon as his voice fell, Rog's figure disappeared. A silver-white electric snake as thick as a finger stopped at the place where he was originally standing. Lightning body flicker. Before the 6-footed demonic wolf-like symbiotic demon could react, Log's figure appeared in front of him. Along with him, there was a silver-white semicircular arc lightning release. Thunderbolt sword draw. The thunderbolt sword formed by silver-white lightning instantly cut through the 6-footed demon wolf's head, directly cutting it off. The best way to deal with symbiotic demons is to use fire and sonic attacks. Rog can't use sonic attacks, and fire release is not his best ninjutsu, so at this time, he didn't choose fire release, but used lightning release. Strictly speaking, the symbiotic demons were not afraid of flames, but high temperatures. As for lightning evasion, it could also have a high temperature effect. Rog's attack was not only beyond the expectations of the 6-footed demonic wolf symbiote, but it was also beyond Venom's expectations. Venom thought that Rog would use flames to attack like before, but it turned out that he was thinking too much. After chopping off the head of the 6-footed demonic wolf, the thunder tachi in Rog's hand did not dissipate directly like before. In the next 10 seconds or so, Venom witnessed with his own eyes what it meant to raise his hand and slash his saber down, and what it meant to have outstanding saber skills. The 6-footed demonic wolf symbiotic body that had its head chopped off didn't even have time to transform into other forms before the thunder tachi slashed its body over and over again, cutting it from more than 3 meters tall to less than 1 meter tall. Chapter 282. Symbiotic demons can transform into various forms and various weapons, but there is a certain limit to their transformation ability. No matter how they transform, the things they transform into will not exceed the limits of their original body. Therefore, when dealing with them, consuming the weapons and bodies transformed by their original body as much as possible can effectively weaken the strength of the original body. This weakness, which was not a weakness, was specifically reminded of by Venom. Venom needs to devour other symbiotic demons to restore his strength, so what he needs is a symbiotic demon that is still alive, not a dead symbiotic demon. Rog's swordsmanship at this time seems to be freewheeling, but every time he uses the swordsmanship, he is extremely measured. It is necessary to consume the transformed body of the six-footed demonic wolf symbiotic demon without causing too much damage to the original body of the symbiotic demon. In order to let this symbiotic demon meet Venom's devouring requirements, Rog can be said to have exhausted all his thoughts. The silver-white swordsmanship came one after another, and every time the thunder Tachi slashed, it would take away a part of the symbiotic demon's body. This originally majestic six-footed demonic wolf symbiotic demon, which was more than 3 meters tall, tenaciously persisted for more than a minute before helplessly changing back to its original form. Just when the dark red symbiotic demon had just changed back to its original form, Venom, who was fully prepared to eat, pounced on it without saying a word. Venom grabbed the slim-like symbiotic demon on the ground and stuffed it into his bloody mouth, and then wolfed it down. Rog removed the thunder Tachi in his hand and turned around silently, without the slightest intention of appreciating Venom's eating manners. Venom's meal didn't last long. It only took less than a minute for Venom to completely devour the army-level dark red symbiotic demon and burped with great satisfaction. How was the effect? How many more do I need to eat to recover? From the outside, Venom at this time looked no different from before. But as long as you perceive the strength of the life energy in his body, you can find a huge change in it. If they are all at this level now, I estimate that it will take 20 or 30 more. But the more I recover, the higher the requirement for devouring, so I estimate that I should be able to recover after devouring about 10 more. After feeling his current state, Venom gave an answer that he was not very sure about. Only by devouring a symbiotic demon that was stronger than itself would there be a corresponding improvement. Therefore, Venom wasn't sure how many more he had to devour before he could return to his previous peak level. 10 is a little too slow. If they're lords, you should be able to recover after devouring 1 or 2, right? Although it was easy to deal with an army symbiotic demon, it was too time-consuming. And as Venom continues to recover, there will be fewer and fewer Legion-level symbiotic demons that meet the devouring requirements. Therefore, instead of targeting the army tier, it would be better to target the lord tier. At the very least, it would save a lot of effort. If it's a lord tier monster, let alone 2, even 1 would be enough. If I can devour 2 lords, I might be able to break through to the lord rank. After hearing Rog's words, Venom began to fantasize about the beautiful picture of himself breaking through to the lord rank. But he quickly recovered from this fantasy and said seriously, there is a fundamental difference between the lord and the army tier. Although I had the strength of the top 10 in the army tier before, in the face of the lord tier riot, I didn't even have the most basic strength to fight back. Are you sure you really want to start with the lord tier? They are not easy to deal with. I'm not doubting your strength, but I think we might not be in such a hurry. It's actually quite good to start with the army tier. Venom knows that Rog is very strong, but after all, he has never seen Rog fight seriously, so he is still a little worried. Lord tier symbiotic demon, that is the well-deserved overlord of the symbiotic demon race. Even if there are hundreds of millions of symbiotic demons on the symbiotic demon planet, the number of lord-tier symbiotic demons has not exceeded 50 so far. 1 in 10 million chance. One can imagine how abnormal lord-tier symbiotic demons are. You don't have to worry about this. Since I have accepted your request, I will definitely help you fulfill your wish. Since 1 or 2 lord-tier symbiotic demons can solve the problem, of course, he can only start with the lord-tier symbiotic demons. As for the strength of the lord-tier symbiotic demons, it is not within the scope of Rog's consideration at all. It is just a symbiotic demon. As long as it is not the symbiotic demon god Nar, it can't be that strong. Although Rog's mentality seems very arrogant, on this planet, he has the confidence and strength to be arrogant. Chakra perception. Rog's perception range began to expand rapidly, and one after another symbiotic demons appeared in his perception. Through the life energy intensity of these symbiotic demons, Rog can roughly infer the level of these symbiotic demons. Symbiotic demons of the general level and below are directly ignored. Only the army tier symbiotic demons have the qualifications to be marked. As for the Lord tier symbiotic demons, he has not found them yet. It was not until he expanded his perception range to 500 kilometers that a completely different life energy signal appeared in his mind. This life energy intensity is definitely that of a Lord tier symbiotic demon. The life energy intensity of other symbiotic demons can only be regarded as a flame or a burning tree. And the life energy intensity of this Lord tier symbiotic demon is like a volcano that can erupt at any time, restrained and not ostentatious, but full of power. Southeast, about 500 kilometers away, there is a Lord tier symbiotic demon. As soon as his voice fell, a brilliant aurora-like light emerged from Rog's body, completely enveloping the two of them. Quantum teleportation. The next second, Rog and Venom's figures disappeared. In just an instant, Rog and Venom crossed 500 kilometers and arrived at the territory of the Lord tier symbiotic demon. The moment they teleported over, a majestic gaze gathered on them. At the same time as the majestic gaze, there was also a substantial aura of intimidation. This aura is very strong. There is no need to look to know that this aura of intimidation came from the Lord tier symbiotic demon. Rog was not a symbiotic entity, so this shocking shock only made him feel as if he was being stared at by a prehistoric giant beast, but he did not feel anything special. But Venom, as a symbiotic demon, was in a much more difficult situation at this time. Venom was trembling all over, as if he was struggling with his instincts, not letting himself kneel on the ground like he was surrendering. Is the suppression between the same race so obvious? Looking at Venom's struggling appearance, Rog knew why Venom said that he had no power to fight back in front of the Lord tier symbiotic demon. Chapter 283. Being suppressed like this, let alone resisting, even normal activities would be a problem. In order to relieve the suppression on Venom, and also to make his side look more imposing, Rog raised his right hand and added a layer of light blue chakra coat to Venom. This layer of chakra coat will not bring any increase in strength to Venom, and it can only resolve the huge pressure on him. When the chakra coat was formed, Venom, who was trembling, suddenly returned to normal and looked at him with great gratitude. Introduce this guy? About 100 meters away from Rog, a huge black humanoid symbiotic demon was sitting cross-legged. Even sitting on the ground, this symbiotic demon was more than 10 meters tall. If he stood up completely, it would not be a problem for him to exceed 20 to 30 meters in height. He is tyrannical, and he has reached the Horde Lord level in more than 1,000 years. Even among the Horde Lord level symbiotic demons, his strength can be ranked in the top 10. Although Chakra Coat resolved the terror from tyrannical, Venom still showed a rare fear in the face of this existence that he could only look up to. Top 10 in the Horde Lord level, then if you can eat him, you should be able to enter the Horde Lord level. Unlike Venom, who was exuding fear all over his body, Rog was unnaturally calm at this time. It's just a Horde Lord level symbiotic demon, no matter how strong it is, it can't be that strong. Besides, even if he can't win against this guy called Tyrannical, if he wants to leave, Tyrannical will definitely not be able to stop him. Step back a little, in case you get caught up in the battle later. After saying that, Rog walked towards Tyrannical, who was far larger than himself. Looking at Rog, who was exuding a blue and white light, Tyrannical in the distance opened his mouth full of sharp teeth and said with interest, "It's actually an Earthling, interesting." Tyrannical spoke standard English as soon as he opened his mouth, so standard that it made people wonder if he specifically looked for an English teacher to tutor him. So you know the language of Earth. That's much more convenient. Under Tyrannical's gaze, Rog walked up to him unhurriedly and looked up at the giant whose fist was bigger than his body. Although there aren't many Earthlings in the universe, I've eaten a few before. The taste and texture weren't very good. Tyrannical didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. His tone was calm as if he was discussing with Rog what to eat for dinner. The taste of Earthlings might not be that good, but I think your taste is pretty good. If Venom can eat you, he will be very happy. Tyranny looked at Rog as if he was looking at prey, and Rog was also looking at him as if he was looking at prey. Although tyranny was prepared for venom, this does not affect Rog's classification of tyranny as food. Venom ate me? Ha 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 ha, Venom used to be a good young man, but now, he's just a useless trash. You are actually with such a trash, then it seems that you are not much better. On Rog's body, Venom can feel a fatal threat. But for Tyrannical, whose strength far exceeds Venom, Rog's strength is barely passable. For prey of Rog's strength, Tyrannical can't say that he has eaten thousands, but there are at least hundreds of them. So in Tyrannical's eyes, Rog is nothing more than a snack that takes the initiative to come to his door, that's all. Whether I'm a trash or not, you will know soon. As soon as his voice fell, Rog took the initiative to launch an attack. Lightning body blink. Lightning sword draw. Rog, who was still a distance away from Tyrannical, disappeared in an instant, and flashed in front of Tyrannical, and the thunder katana in his hand directly slashed at Tyrannical's neck. Just as the thunder katana with the power of thunder was about to hit Tyrannical's neck, a big black hand about the same size as Rog's body rushed out of Tyrannical's neck and grabbed the silver-white blade. Clang! The thunder katana was blocked as if it had cut an extremely hard steel, and the huge recoil directly shattered the thunder katana in Rog's hand. It's actually so hard. Although the big black hand transformed by Tyrannical is not real metal, it is harder than ordinary metal. The thunder katana was shattered, and Rog did not hesitate and immediately retreated. A Lord-tier symbiotic demon was indeed different. Tyrannical didn't seem to see Rog's retreat at all, and let him leave without any intention of pursuing him. After easily pulling away, Rog shook his slightly numb right hand, and his eyes began to become serious. Unlike the symbiotic demons he had encountered before, Tyrannical is not only larger in size, but also has higher life energy, and even the transformed limbs are harder. The thunder katana, which can easily cut through real metal, can't cut through the big black hand he casually transformed. This kind of defensive power is terrifying. No wonder Venom said that there is a fundamental difference between Lord-level symbiotic demons and Legion-level symbiotic demons. The huge gap between the two is like two different species. Since the effect of the melee attack is not good, it's time to change to a long-range attack. Fire release, Great Fire Annihilation. Rog spouted an orange-red high-temperature flame from his mouth, and as the distance increased, the scope of the flame became larger and larger. When the flame swept across a distance of tens of meters and came in front of Tyrannical, the flame, which was only as thick as a finger, had expanded into a sea of fire. It covered the sky and burned everything. Tyrannical can ignore the thunder katana, but he can't ignore this great fire annihilation. With the Sanbai's chakra, Rog's great fire annihilation has not reached the level of Uchiha Madara, but it is definitely not far away. One is Madara's fire release, and the other is water release. In front of the amazing sea of fire, Tyrannical, who has been sitting on the ground, finally had a serious expression. However, Tyrannical still didn't stand up. Tyrannical's hands slammed on the ground, and in the next second, a black wall appeared in front of him out of thin air, blocking all the flames. Zzz, the sizzling sound continued to sound, and when the sea of fire covering the earth dissipated, the black wall in front of Tyrannical finally revealed its true appearance. Tyrannical directly transformed into a wall more than 10 meters high and dozens of meters wide, blocking all the flames in front of him. Although the symbiotic demons are naturally afraid of fire damage, this weakness can be eliminated. Tyrannical is a top-level symbiotic demon that eliminates the weakness of fire. Even the two weaknesses of fire and sound can't be eliminated. It is not qualified to be a Lord-level symbiotic demon. Chapter 284. Lord-level symbiotic monster is really different. Although the black wall transformed by Tyrannical was destroyed by the fire, there were holes everywhere, and it looked like it would completely collapse with a little bit of force. But there was no doubt that this black wall completely blocked all the damage from Tyrannical, and it didn't let Tyrannical suffer any damage. Compared to Venom, who was attacked by Tyrannical's fireball, and compared to Tyrannical, who was attacked by Tyrannical's fire, the gap was really big. You Earthling, you are quite interesting. After removing the tattered black wall, Tyrannical looked at Rog with interest, as if he had seen a rare animal. You are also quite good, stronger than I thought. Until now, Tyrannical was still sitting on the ground, and he didn't move at all. Among the enemies he fought, the only one who could make Rog attack twice without moving was Tyrannical. Although in terms of overall strength, Tyrannical might not be the strongest one. However, the attitude he displayed was the most domineering and powerful of them all. If you only have this much strength, you and Venom won't be able to leave here alive today. Attack with all your might, let me see if you, who are in the same team as that trash Venom, are really trash. At this time, Tyrannical still looked like he didn't put Rog in his eyes at all. Rog's fire just now was indeed unexpected, but that was it. You want to see my full strength? Sure, but don't regret it. After the 2 attacks just now, Rog had a rough understanding of Tyrannical's strength. Then, of course, it was time to take it seriously. With a thought, a Rasengan wrapped in silver-white lightning appeared in his right hand. When this Rasengan appeared, Tyrannical suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger in the distance. What does this guy want to do? Tyrannical looked at the silver-white Rasengan in Rog's hand, and a trace of doubt appeared on his expressionless face. Soon, Tyrannical got the answer. Right ton, spiral railgun. Almost at the moment when Rog raised his right hand, the Rasengan wrapped in silver-white lightning appeared in front of Tyrannical. Rumble. A terrifying explosion like an intercontinental missile sounded, and a blue-white ball of light rose from Tyrannical's position, like a scorching sun rising from the ground. The energy storm full of destruction and death raged wildly, and the terrifying shockwaves and airwaves swept everything around, creating a shocking scene like the end of the world. No wonder he asked me to step back a little. Looking at the terrifying scene created by the spiral railgun, Venom began to rejoice that he followed Rog's instructions from the beginning. Luckily, I didn't make him my enemy from the start. Luckily, Venom couldn't help but recall the first time he met Roger, and at the same time felt gratified for his wisdom at that time. At this time, not only Venom, but also Tyrannical was hit by the railgun. Tyrannical, SSSSS. SSSSSS attack, at least, Tyrannical's, compared to the Grand Annihilation Flame, the spiral electromagnetic cannon's power was several orders of magnitude stronger. If the power of the Magnum Inferno was equivalent to that of an ordinary pistol, then the power of the electromagnetic pulse cannon was equivalent to that of a Barrett heavy sniper rifle. The two were on completely different levels. Because of his overconfidence, the tyrant had no choice but to take all the damage from the electromagnetic gun. If he hadn't been sitting on the ground all this time, even if the final result was still failure, it would definitely be much better than now. In order to minimize the damage to himself, Tyranny rolled into a ball without caring about his image, protecting his most important body in the innermost circle. Even so, under the terrifying power of the spiral railgun, Tyranny's transformed body was shrinking at an alarming rate. Fortunately, the electromagnetic pulse cannon was not a continuous attack. As long as he survived the explosion phase, the damage would only decrease and disappear quickly. When the power of the explosion had completely dissipated, and when the dust that filled the sky fell to the ground, Tyrannical's figure once again appeared in front of Rog. Compared to the astonishing figure of the tyrant that was more than 10 meters tall when he sat down, the current tyrant was less than a meter tall. To be precise, it was a black spherical body less than a meter in diameter. Although it looked miserable, the damage Tyrannical suffered was not as serious as it looked. Most of his body was preserved by him. As for the ones that he lost, it was only a small matter. As long as his body was still there, he could transform into any body he wanted at any time. Looking at the black sphere rolling around in the crater caused by the explosion, Rog's right hand once again emitted silver-white lightning. There was nothing that the electromagnetic pulse cannon couldn't solve. If there was, then he would use it again. Just as he was about to continue to use the electromagnetic pulse cannon, the black sphere in the crater started to spin wildly like a black tire. Then, lightning rushed out of the crater and ran away without looking back. Running away? The top 10 Lord-level symbiotic demons only had this much ambition. His mentality collapsed so easily. Looking at Tyrannical, who quickly disappeared from his sight, Rog looked at Venom with some confusion. Venom also didn't expect that the famous Tyrannical would run away, and run away so decisively. In Rog's perception, although the intensity of Tyrannical's life energy has decreased a little, it is far from reaching the point where he is seriously injured. If he wants to seriously injure Tyrannical, at least 1 or 2 electromagnetic pulse cannon shots will be needed, and it has to be the kind that completely hits Tyrannical. You wait for me here, pay attention to your own safety, don't get eaten by other guys. After instructing Venom, Rog used quantum teleportation to chase after them. It is not in his character to let go of the prey that is about to be caught. The ball-like Tyrannical did run very fast, but no matter how fast he is, he can't be faster than Rog's quantum transmission. After using quantum transmission to appear near Tyrannical again, Rog didn't hesitate and opened his mouth to use water release. Water release, water ripple breaker. Water ripple breaker is one of the signature ninjutsu of second Hokage Tobirama. Tobirama's water ripple breaker can even easily cut off the roots of the sacred tree. Rog has never used water ripple breaker in a formal battle before because he felt that the action of spitting at the enemy was not in line with his cool style. Water ripple breaker is powerful, lethal, long-range attack, wide range, and fast. Except for the fact that it can only be spat out from the mouth, there are almost no shortcomings. Chapter 285. A high-pressure water column spurted out from Rog's mouth, like a laser beam, attacking the rapidly rolling Tyrannical. At first, the water column was only as thick as a finger. But when the water column arrived in front of Tyrannical, it had grown to the size of an arm. From the outside, the water column of Water Breaker looked ordinary, similar to the water column shot out from a high-pressure water gun. However, when the arm-thick water column hit the ball-like Tyranny, the water column directly pierced through Tyranny's ball-like body, like a thin string piercing through Tyranny's body. Perhaps it was because Tyrannical didn't strengthen his body, or maybe Tyrannical didn't care about the attack of Water Breaker at all. Even the Thunder Tachi couldn't cut through Tyrannical's body, but Water Breaker instantly pierced through it, like piercing through a soft cake without any hindrance. Although Rog had tested the power of Water Breaker before, he wasn't absolutely sure whether it could pierce through Tyrannical's body. Seeing that Water Breaker easily pierced through Tyrannical's body, Tyrannical didn't hesitate and suddenly twisted his neck. The straight Water Breaker instantly transformed into a high-pressure water knife, cutting through Tyrannical's body. Tyrannical didn't expect that the seemingly weak Water Breaker would have such amazing lethality. When the Water Breaker transformed into a water knife to cut through his body, Tyrannical decisively chose to transform and let his body avoid being cut by the water knife. In the blink of an eye, Tyrannical's body turned from a round ball into a half-meter-tall feline, pouncing to the side at lightning speed. Tyrannical's transformation wasn't slow, but even so, Water Breaker still left an extremely obvious wound on his body. However, the wound that spanned almost the entire back only existed for a short 1 or 2 seconds before disappearing. The power of Water Breaker was a little better than Rog expected. He originally planned to use Water Breaker to stop Tyrannical's tumbling. But now, not only did he stop the round Tyrannical, but he also left a considerable injury on Tyrannical. After transforming into a feline to avoid the follow-up damage of Water Breaker, Tyrannical didn't continue to maintain his feline form. He transformed into a human form that was only a head taller than Rog. From a biological point of view, the two-legged walking posture of humans was not very outstanding. Not to mention the insect form, which had better individual performance. Even most animal forms were better than human forms. Of course, this excellence was only established in instinctive activities that did not involve intelligence. Why do all the intelligent races in the universe have human-like bodies? Other than the fact that it had something to do with the laws of the universe that could not be explained, another reason was that humanoid bodies were more versatile. In terms of individual performance, the humanoid body had no other advantages other than its larger brain. However, in terms of overall performance, the humanoid body was definitely the king of the price-performance ratio. However, this shouldn't have anything to do with the tyrant turning back into his human form. Rog speculated that tyranny should be one of the few symbiotic demons that preferred humanoid bodies. This could be seen from his original giant body. After personally experiencing the power of the electromagnetic pulse cannon, the tyrant decisively gave up on the idea of enlarging his body. The bigger the body, the bigger the target, and the easier it was to be hit. As a symbiotic demon that had lived for countless years and conquered countless planets and races, the tyrant understood this principle. More importantly, the tyrant felt that transforming into a human form that was similar to Rog's would allow him to better unleash his strength. The tyrant had never been to Earth and had not seen many Earthlings. However, there was one thing that he was very sure of, and that was that Earthlings' bodies were very weak. In his opinion, Rog was a classic example of someone who had high offense and low defense. When facing such an enemy, one fatal attack would usually be enough to take their life. Although the tyrant's body had become much smaller, this did not mean that his strength had decreased. A smaller body meant a smaller target to attack, and a faster attack speed. After making up his mind, the tyrant immediately ran toward Rog. The sharp claws on his hands emitted a cold metallic glow. Apart from his hands, he had also hardened his entire body to the point that even the thunder tachi could not cut through it. Not only that, but black tentacle-like tentacles also surged out of his body, showing a different style of Cthulhu. Facing the tyrant who was rushing toward him, Rog stood motionless as if he did not see him at all. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters. Although the symbiotic demons were not a race that excelled in speed, the last 5 meters were basically non-existent for the tyrant. Just as the tyrant was trying to directly pounce on Rog and quickly get rid of this earthling who made him so embarrassed, Rog finally moved. Because of infinite mode, Rog was always in a state of light. At this time, a light blue light emerged from his body again. Unlike the blue and white light that enveloped the whole body in infinite mode, this light blue chakra quickly condensed the moment it emerged from his body. In just an instant, a skeleton with only some ribs and arms appeared beside Rog. Susanoo. At this time, Rog had many ways to dodge or resolve the tyrant's attack, but he chose Susanoo, which had never been used in a real battle. Compared with other enemies, the tyrant, who had outstanding regeneration ability and was only good at melee attacks, was undoubtedly a rare test target. Boom! The tyrant, who was running wildly, collided with the Susanoo formed by chakra, and the strong impact produced a shock wave visible to the naked eye. However, even in this situation, which was like being hit by a heavy truck at full speed, Rog's Susanoo did not even shake. The tyrant thought that Rog's Susanoo was just an ordinary energy manifestation, but the moment he came into contact with Susanoo, he knew that he guessed wrong again. This is not an energy manifestation. This thing is very dangerous. The crisis instinct that originated from the depths of the tyrant's soul frantically warned him. The tyrant had realized that something was wrong, but at this time, he had no chance to leave. Although Rog is now using the first stage of Susanoo, that is, only a part of the ribs and an arm form, the defense and attack power of Susanoo will not change significantly because of the different form. After using Susanoo to block the tyrant's impact, Rog did not hesitate at all and used the only bone right hand on Susanoo to grab the humanoid tyrant. Caught you. The tyrant, who was caught by Susanoo's bone right hand, was just about to change his form and break away from the bondage, when an indescribably terrifying grip fell on his body. Crush you. Chapter 286. Ah! Tyrannical, who was caught by Susanoo, screamed like a wild beast. The light blue chakra forcibly covered his whole body, making it impossible for him to change his body shape and escape. Although Chakra's materialized arm wasn't a real body, it was no different from a real arm when controlled. Rog continued to increase the strength of his right hand, and the brutal screams became more and more obvious. The chakra that forcefully covered the tyrant's body not only formed an airtight cage, but it also continuously corroded the tyrant's body like lava. At this moment, Despot finally understood why Rog had always been so calm. This guy had been hiding his strength all along. No, it wasn't that he was hiding his strength. It was that he simply couldn't be bothered to use his full strength. Let venom eat me? Tyrannical recalled what Rog had said, and his mood worsened. If Rog had come with other motives, he might have been able to negotiate a deal with Rog and solve this problem in a more civilized way. But Rog's original purpose was to let venom eat him, which means that there is no possibility of any transaction between them. He was dead for sure today. No, absolutely not. As a Lord-class symbiotic demon, I definitely cannot be devoured by an army-class symbiotic demon. Ever since the birth of the symbiotic demons, there had never been such a case of a junior defeating a senior. Despot didn't want to become the first person in the history of the symbiotic demons. He also didn't want to die in the hands of an earthling for no reason. Thus, Ba Zi began to play with his life in the truest sense. The huge power coming from Susanu's right hand was like a mountain crushing tyrannical, and the chakra covering his whole body also cut off the idea of using transformation to escape. You forced me to do this. With a thought, Tyranny, who was originally in human form, began to rapidly expand like a human-shaped balloon. Despot chose to enlarge himself at this moment, and he didn't care about the damage to his body. If he was crushed to death, then no matter how perfect his body was, it would be meaningless. In that case, he might as well go all out and directly break through the binding of Susanu and chakra at the cost of his body. The unique life form of the symbiotic demons could allow them to take any form they wanted. However, under normal circumstances, they would only use a small portion of their bodies to transform. The more of his original body he used during the transformation, the stronger the transformed form would be. To put it simply, the more the original body was used, the tougher and stronger the transformed body would be. At this moment, Despot chose to use his true body. This also meant that the body he transformed into now would be far stronger than any of his previous incarnations. It might even reach the point of being indestructible. Using 100% of the original body to carry out the transformation brought about a visible increase in strength. However, this was also extremely risky. If the body he had transformed into using 100% of his original body was destroyed, then he would undoubtedly die on the spot. Since his main body had been completely consumed, he naturally lost all possibility of survival. Despot was well aware of the risk of using his true body, but he could only do so now. If he did that, there was still a chance of survival. If he didn't do it, he would definitely die. The frantically expanding tyranny opened up Susanu's right hand little by little, using brute force to gain more space for himself to move. As the controller of Susanu, Rog immediately noticed the change in tyrannical. Later, when the tyrant was planning to continue, he silently cast a lightning release ninjutsu. Electric discharger, 100 million volts. A terrifying silver-white electric current instantly emerged, and a silver-white electric snake emerged from Susanu's right hand, and at the same time, there was a crackling sound of electric current. Despot, who was trying his best to expand his victory, did not expect Rog to extinguish his flames of hope the moment he gained some breathing space. Streaks of silver-white electric snakes continued to swim around the tyrannical black body, causing his black body to turn red, like a shrimp that was quickly being cooked. Ah! The tyrannical screams rang out again. Using Susanu to cast ninjutsu is not a particularly strange thing. For example, Uchiha Madara can make Susanu form hand seals and cast ninjutsu independently. And strictly speaking, at this time, Rog was not using Susanu to cast ninjutsu. What he was doing now was just treating Susanu as a part of his body. The person who used Raitun, lightning discharger, was still him, but he used Susanu's right hand as his own, making lightning discharger attack tyrannical directly. When electric discharger, 100 million volts, completely disappeared, Despot in Susanu's right hand was like a completely roasted fish, emitting heat visible to the naked eye. At this time, Despot was motionless, and his figure also changed back to a state where he was only a head taller than Rog. Looking at his appearance, Despot seemed to be completely dead, but in his body, the life energy was still there. Looking at the miserable Despot, Rog directly released Susanu's right hand, letting the motionless Despot fall to the ground. However, at the moment when he fell to the ground, Despot came back to life again. In just a blink of an eye, Despot turned into a round ball with a diameter of only 20 or 30 centimeters, trying to run for his life again. But this time, before he could roll far, a long sword formed entirely of chakra nailed him to the ground. Chakra long sword. The ability to let Susanoo use simple swords and swords is an ability obtained after cultivating Susanoo to its first form. With a complete skeleton, in addition to all the abilities of the initial form, the first form can also materialize chakra into some simple weapons to enhance combat power. At this time, although Rog only displayed the initial form of Susanoo, this does not affect him from using the abilities of the first form. If he wants, he can even use a long-range attack ninjutsu in the initial form, which is only available in the second form, Yasaka no Magatama. But just dealing with Despot who was trying to escape, there is no need to use Yasaka no Magatama. After being nailed to the ground by chakra, Despot did not hesitate and changed his form again, turning into a pool of flowing black liquid. Odama Rasengan. As soon as Despot turned into a black liquid, Rog's second attack fell on him. When Rog used it himself, the diameter of Odama Rasengan was only 1 meter. But the diameter of Susanoo's Odama Rasengan reached an astonishing 5 meters. The bigger the palm, the bigger the Odama Rasengan. Chapter 287. High-end ingredients often only require the simplest cooking method. After being busy for a long time, Rog finally began to make this Lord-level symbiotic monster meal that belonged to Venom. The Odama Rasengan with a diameter of 5 meters was like the most sophisticated blender, descending on the body of the tyrannical, which turned into a pool of black liquid. The body of the tyrannical was cut and shrunk rapidly as if it was cut by thousands of sharp blades. Except for the main body, all the other parts of the body were removed by the madly rotating Odama Rasengan, leaving only the purest and most original body. At this time, Rog was like a real chef, using a simple method to let the tyrannical return to the most primitive state, exuding the most natural fragrance. Although there was no change in the oral cavity and other parts, the tyrannical still let out a burst of harsh screams. The screams came from the crazy vibration of the main body of the tyrannical, accompanied by the rotating sound of the Odama Rasengan, playing a different symphony hand in hand. When the main body of the tyrannical began to stop shaking and gradually returned to the most primitive slime clay state, Rog finally removed the Odama Rasengan from Susanoo's right hand. This guy won't die, right? At this time, the tyrannical was curled up in a big pit more than 10 meters wide and 3 or 4 meters deep, looking like he had completely lost his life. Chakra perception. Rog frowned and sensed the situation in the tyrannical's body, then breathed a sigh of relief. Although the strength of the life energy in the tyrannical's body is far less than before, it is even much weaker than the original Venom. But one thing is certain, the tyrannical is not dead yet. That being said, the tyrannical at this time is worse than death. Because he is about to become the first person in the history of the symbiotic monster clan, and the first Lord-level symbiotic monster to be devoured by an army-level symbiotic monster. After grabbing the motionless tyrannical with Susanoo's right hand, Rog used quantum transmission to return to Venom's position. It has to be said that Venom is very obedient sometimes. When leaving, Rog asked Venom to wait for him in the same place. As a result, Venom really didn't move a single step. He lay on the ground obediently, waiting for Rog's return. Venom wasn't worried that Tyrannical could escape from Rog's hands, even if Tyrannical was a Lord-ranked symbiotic monster and was one of the top 10 Lord-ranked symbiotic monsters. However, in front of Rog, it was impossible for him to escape. Although Venom had never seen Rog go all out, he was certain that Tyrannical was definitely not a match for Rog. Abomination had a deep understanding of Venom's thoughts. This was a kind of blind worship that would never disappear once it appeared. Even if Rog fought the symbiote god Nar alone, Venom felt that Rog had a higher chance of winning. Venom may not have realized it himself, but he had unknowingly divided himself into Rog's side. When the familiar aurora-like brilliant light reappeared, Venom, who was lying on the ground, jumped up, and he became extremely excited. He's back, Rog is finally back. After the brilliant light of quantum transmission disappeared, Venom saw Rog as he wished, and the black creature in Susanu's right hand. This was tyrannical. The Lord-ranked symbiotic monster was directly beaten back to its original state. Can I devour tyrannical now? Although Venom was trying to control himself, when he spoke, his eyes still involuntarily stayed on Tyrannical's body. Of course, this is what we agreed on in the commission. After that, Rog put the motionless Tyrannical in front of Venom, and then deactivated Susanu. As soon as Rog put down Tyrannical, Venom was like a hungry wolf, and he pounced on Tyrannical without saying a word. Then, there was a somewhat disgusting scene of eating. Rog ignored Venom's eating etiquette and turned around silently, not wanting Venom's behavior to affect his future appetite. Venom's eating didn't last long, to be precise, it was less than 10 seconds. The motionless Tyrannical was stuffed into Venom's body. It was like a python swallowing a huge prey alive, swallowing it whole. When Tyrannical's body entered Venom's body, Venom let out a howl that was either excited or uncomfortable, and hundreds of thin and thick black tentacles gushed out of his humanoid body. Then, Venom fell back, lying directly on the ground, and burped with satisfaction. The process of Venom devouring Tyrannical was very short, only less than 10 seconds. But in order to digest the Lord-ranked Tyrannical, it took Venom more than 3 hours. In the past 3 hours, Venom seemed to have fallen into hibernation, lying motionless on the ground. If it weren't for the increasing strength of his life energy, Rog would even suspect that he was killed by Tyrannical. When Venom ended his hibernation and stood up again, Rog felt a completely different aura from him. If the previous Venom gave people the feeling that he was a frivolous street gangster, then he would have been more like a frivolous street punk. Then the current Venom is a bit like a weather-beaten, murderous underworld overlord. Thank you. Venom came to Rog and said very solemnly. At the same time, he bowed slightly and saluted to Rog. You're welcome. In the next few hours, Venom used facts to prove how powerful he was after devouring Tyrannical. No matter how powerful the army-level symbiotic demons were, under Venom's attack, they couldn't last more than a minute. The 10 army-level symbiotic demons required for the commission reward were completed by Venom in just over 10 minutes. Of course, this was under the condition that Rog used quantum transmission to save a lot of time on the road. Ninja coins not consumed, 885. The system's commission reward was sent to Rog's account immediately after Venom paid the commission reward. Looking at the ninja coins in the highest position in history in the attribute panel, Rog showed a satisfied smile. After returning to Earth, as long as he makes a few more commissions, he can make the unconsumed ninja coins break through the 1000 mark, and then exchange for some real high-level items. For example, half of Cubi. Yes, half of Cubi costs a full 1000 ninja coins. Of course, the system is not the kind of ruthless existence. Half of Cubi costs 1000 ninja coins. But if you want to exchange for 2 Cubi at once, it only costs 1800 ninja coins. Go find Riot. I want to see your battle of revenge. Rog said to Venom after putting another symbiotic demon that Venom had defeated into a container. Because of Venom's hard work, 72 of the 100 containers in the summon scroll have been used at this time. It is only a matter of time before the containers are filled, so Rog intends to end this boring capture operation temporarily. Chapter 288. You want to see me fight against Riot? Venom glanced back at Rog and asked with uncertainty. Yes, you have become a Lord-level symbiotic body now, don't you want to wash away your shame? In the past few hours, although Venom didn't say anything, Rog could see that Venom was constantly adapting to the power of the Lord level and silently adjusting his state. But I don't know where Riot is, and I don't have the confidence to win against Riot now. Although Venom was promoted to the Lord level after devouring Tyrannical, Riot is also a Lord-level symbiotic body. And unlike Venom who had just been promoted to the Lord level, Riot has been at the Lord level for a long time. This also means that Riot's strength will be stronger than the current Venom. More importantly, the previous painful experience has left Venom with some psychological trauma, making him instinctively afraid of Riot. At the beginning, Riot could have given venom to his friend, but he didn't do so. Instead, he tore apart half of Venom's body. This approach seems to be sparing Venom's life, but in fact, it is really killing him. Not only will it ruin his future, but it will also make him bleak for the rest of his life. What Riot showed was not mercy, but cruelty that lasts a lifetime. Leave the matter of finding people to me. If you really can't beat Riot, then let me help you complete your revenge. No matter how strong Riot is, it is not stronger than Tyrannical. Even Tyrannical was not Rog's opponent, let alone Riot. After hearing Rog's almost guaranteed answer, Venom stuck out his tongue excitedly and quickly nodded. The reason why Rog let Venom find Riot for revenge is not only to let Venom wash away his shame, but he also has some plans of his own. He is starting to look down on the army-level symbiotic body. Therefore, he intends to get a few Lord-level symbiotic bodies back. Since he has already set his sights on the Lord-level symbiotic body, it is better to take advantage of the situation and let Venom take revenge on the way, lest Venom is always thinking about it. In addition, he also intends to further strengthen Venom. Riot is a good target to devour. The process of finding the Riot was not complicated. In fact, it could even be said to be extremely simple. Casting Chakra's perception spell to search for the target with the highest life force within a radius of 500 kilometers, casting quantum teleportation, asking for the location of the Riot in a friendly manner, packing it up and throwing it into the mediumship scroll. Next, the above process was repeated. Rog and Venom were lucky. After repeating the process 3 times, they asked about the whereabouts of Riot. Are you ready? Rog asked Venom before preparing to use quantum teleportation to directly reach the area where the Riot was. My fangs have long quenched their thirst. Venom replied excitedly. Then let's go. A brilliant aurora-like light flashed, and the figures of Rog and Venom instantly disappeared. When the light of quantum teleportation dissipated, Rog finally saw the Riot that changed Venom's life. It was earthy yellow in color, had a humanoid body, and was over 4 meters tall. Other than the difference in size and color, Riot looked like another version of Venom. Before the teleportation, Rog confirmed the life force on Riot and roughly inferred Riot's strength. Stronger than the current Venom, weaker than the previous Tyrannical. It meets the devour requirements of the symbiotic demons, which is good. Go, take back your dignity and glory, and let the name Venom resound throughout the symbiotic demon's home planet again. Rog turned his head to look at Venom, cheering Venom up with his Chinibu lines. Venom didn't speak, but nodded very seriously, and then ran towards Riot less than 100 meters ahead. The moment Rog and Venom appeared, Riot recognized Venom and showed a puzzled look. Venom was promoted to the Lord grade? As the instigator who destroyed Venom's future and made Venom a laughingstock, Riot was certainly no stranger to Venom. It was precisely because of this that he was puzzled by Venom's promotion to the Lord grade. After losing half of his body, he could still be promoted to the Lord grade? Although Riot didn't know how Venom did it, one thing he was sure of was that Venom's promotion was related to the Earthling next to him. Just as Riot was guessing the relationship between Rog and Venom, Venom, who was running at full speed, came in front of Riot like a black shadow, and his sharp claws directly grabbed Riot's head. Because of their racial form, the battles between symbiotic demons were simple and crude close combat. The only difference was that the weapons and forms of each symbiotic demon would be different. Unlike Venom, who liked to fight hand-to-hand, Riot preferred to use weapons. Before Venom's claws touched Riot, Riot's hands turned into 2 huge scimitars, slashing at Venom from left and right. For symbiotic demons with amazing regeneration ability, a little injury in battle was nothing. To some extent, they even liked this kind of injury for injury tactic. So whether it was Venom or Riot, they had no intention of avoiding each other's attacks. Venom's claws tore Riot's head as he wished. Riot's scimitars also slashed at Venom without any suspense, almost splitting Venom into 3. Injuries that would be fatal to other creatures were nothing to the symbiotic demons. Without any hesitation, the injured Venom and Riot attacked again. While Venom and Riot were fighting like wild beasts, Rog used wood release and made himself a wooden chair to sit on. If it was a battle of other people, Rog might seriously appreciate it to see if there was anything worth learning. But the battle of symbiotic demons was completely meaningless. These guys purely relied on their racial talents to fight. Learning their fighting style would only make him die faster. Time passed little by little. Venom and Riot were like two wild beasts that would not tire at all, crazily fighting each other. If you scratch me, I'll slash you. If you hit me with a hammer, I'll hit you with an axe. If you dare to bite my neck, I'll dare to tear your thigh. Their recovery ability was strong, and they were more wild in battle. From the looks of it, the current Venom and Riot could be said to be on par. But Rog could clearly sense that the life energy in Venom's body was depleted faster than Riot's. This also meant that when Venom lost all his stamina and regeneration ability, Riot could still beat him up as if it was alive and kicking. This was not good news for Venom. Although Rog promised Venom that when he was no match for Riot, he would take care of Riot himself. But if possible, he still hoped that Venom could take care of Riot himself. So until the last moment, he would never take action. Chapter 289. As time passed, Venom, who could have been on par with Riot, began to gradually fall into a disadvantage. The battle between Riot and Venom has been maintained at a very high attack frequency. After noticing that Venom's attack speed had begun to slow down, Riot once again increased his attack speed and frequency. Kill Venom in one fell swoop. Riot's idea at this time was very simple, that is, to first focus on killing Venom, who was inexplicably promoted to the Lord level, and then deal with Rog. Although Rog hasn't made a move and played the role of a spectator very well. However, Riot was keenly aware of the unimaginable amount of energy radiating from him. Riot didn't know what chakra was, but he was sure that this energy he had never seen before was very dangerous. In other words, any creature with such powerful energy in their body is very dangerous. In terms of close combat, Venom is not weaker than Riot, and he is even more outstanding than Riot. However, Riot has a huge advantage that Venom can't reach. The weapons transformed by Riot are not only sharper and harder than Venom, but they are also far more varied than Venom. This also leads to a somewhat awkward problem. The weapons transformed by Venom may not be able to hurt Riot. And the weapons transformed by Riot can easily hurt Venom. If it weren't for Venom's advantage in fighting skills, he would have died under Riot's 18 weapons. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Rog, after seeing the weapons transformed by Riot, couldn't help but exclaim that Riot is a weapon master. All kinds of cold weapons he has seen or never seen before were transformed by Riot one after another. And he doesn't know if Riot has OCD, but the weapons he transformed into would basically only be used once, and then quickly change to other weapons. Judging from the types of weapons and the use of them, Riot can indeed be called a rare weapon master. However, there was a small problem. His attacks gave Rog a feeling that they were flashy but not practical. Is he deliberately showing off his skills? Rog looked at Riot with some doubts. Just when Rog was thinking about whether Riot is showing off his skills or OCD, Venom started to take a defensive posture. He was starting to find it hard to continue fighting with his life on the line. As a newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon, Venom's foundation was far inferior to Riot's. Moreover, the psychological shadow that appeared from time to time further affected his performance. If possible, Venom certainly hoped that he could use a tough stance to directly kill Riot, but the gap in strength would not change because of his personal wishes. At this time, both of Venom's hands had turned into black shields that were half the height of a person, constantly blocking wave after wave of attacks. At the same time, Venom silently calculated the remaining energy in his body. Half an hour. He could only last for half an hour at most, and then he would revert back to his original, defenseless state. After confirming that he could no longer defeat Riot with his own strength, Venom set his eyes on Rog in the distance. Then, he saw a strange scene. At this moment, Rog's eyes were closed and his right hand was supporting his tilted head. His breathing was calm. Did he fall asleep? At this moment, Venom suddenly felt like he had met a scumbag. What happened to the promise? Didn't we agree that when I can't solve Riot, you will solve it? Looking at Rog, who seemed to have fallen asleep, Venom suddenly roared and then took the initiative to face Riot. Relying on others was unreliable. Instead of praying for others' help, it was better to fight for an opportunity with his life. Since Venom could bring his symbiotic demon army to fight everywhere in order to become stronger, then, the current Venom could of course fight desperately for revenge and survival. I don't want to be a laughingstock in other people's mouth anymore. I don't want to be a joke in my race anymore. I absolutely don't want to be called trash again. Venom's rationality began to gradually disappear and was replaced by pure instinct for revenge. In the past, Venom would feel lucky to have survived by a fluke. But now, he would only do everything to take revenge. F***ck honor, F***ck promotion, F***ck becoming stronger. I just want to tear this bastard in front of me alive. Ah! The shields in Venom's hands had long disappeared, and the sharp claws emitting cold light appeared again. Tear him apart. When Venom's mentality changed, Rog in the distance and Riot in front of Venom immediately noticed his change. Venom's white eyes that had no eyeballs turned blood red. Not only that, but Venom's figure also began to change. His body, which originally had some elasticity, became extremely hard at this time, and his black body exuded a dark metallic light. Dang 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 dang, the weapon in Riot's hand hit Venom's body, making a crisp sound of metal colliding. What's going on with this guy? What's going on? Looking at Venom, who had suddenly become different from the others, Riot was puzzled. Just a minute ago, he still had the upper hand. As a result, Venom turned his head and glanced at the Earthling, and he became like this. Thinking of this, Riot suddenly realized something and turned his head to look at Rog in the distance. At this time, Rog was completely different from before. Not only was he not asleep, but he also stood up from the wooden chair, looking at the mutated Venom with satisfaction. He wasn't asleep, and the reason why he acted like that was nothing more than to see what Venom would do. If Venom brought Riot over after seeing him asleep, then he would deal with Riot as promised. But if Venom didn't bring Riot over, then he would give Venom a big gift that he couldn't refuse. The strongest Lord-level symbiotic body. As long as Venom can show the belief of revenge even at the cost of his life, as long as Venom has this mentality of only relying on his own strength to fight against a strong enemy, then he will help Venom become the strongest Lord-level symbiotic body. Some things can be obtained through acquired training, such as a certain degree of strength and ability. There are also some things that can never be obtained through acquired training. For example, beliefs, such as mentality. When Venom made this choice, he may not have thought so much. But on Rog's side, Venom's choice just now made him very satisfied. Riot was able to stand out among hundreds of millions of symbiotic bodies and become one of the few Lord-level symbiotic bodies, indicating that he is not the kind of idiot who only knows how to use brute force. So after seeing the satisfied look on Rog's face and the sudden mutation of Venom, Riot decisively made the choice to retreat. There is something wrong with Venom, and there is also something wrong with that Earthling. Retreat first, and then slowly settle accounts with Venom later. As soon as this thought appeared in Riot's mind, Rog's voice came over. Would release, trapping beast cage. Chapter 290. Rog clasped his hands together, and rows of square wood rose from the ground, quickly building an enclosed space the size of a football field. The name, Beast Cage, was just casually given by him, and it has no special meaning. Moreover, what he used at this time was not a Mokuton ninjutsu, but a simple use of Mokuton. If he doesn't like the name, Beast Cage, he can change it to Coliseum or Wembley Stadium, and it won't affect the effect at all. It's rare for Venom to enter a berserk state. If he lets Riot escape at this time, Rog will despise himself. With the appearance of the Mokuton cage, Riot finally understood Rog's plan. This guy wants me to die here and become the target of Venom's devouring. After realizing this, Riot no longer held back, and the energy in his body surged wildly. Riot's yellow body suddenly skyrocketed, reaching 10 meters in an instant. After that, the gigantic Riot punched Venom, who had gone berserk, and ran towards Rog. First deal with this earthling, then deal with Venom. Although Riot doesn't know why Venom has become this berserk state. But one thing he can be sure of is that Venom's berserk state won't last long. If the energy in Venom's body was declining steadily in a gentle manner before, then now, the energy in Venom's body is declining rapidly, like diving into a pool, burning frantically in a state of burning his life force. This desperate berserk state made Venom burst out far more powerful than before, but it also consumed Venom's energy quickly. According to Riot's estimation, Venom can only continue to maintain the berserk state for more than a minute, and then he will collapse without any suspense. More than a minute, this time is not long. But if he chooses to resist, it will also cause a lot of trouble for him. Therefore, Riot decisively changed the target, adjusting the attack target to Rog, and at the same time delaying Venom's time. Riot's choice can't be said to be wrong, it can even be regarded as killing two birds with one stone. He can take the opportunity to waste Venom's little remaining time, and he can also kill Rog, who is not pleasing to the eye, during this time. Their choice was correct, but the Riot had overlooked two very important issues. Venom, in his berserk state, would not let him leave, and Rog was not as weak as he thought. Although the physiques of Earthlings were weak in the eyes of the symbiotic demons, the physiques of humans could not be lumped together. Rog was the one who couldn't be lumped together. Rog didn't have any intention of moving as he watched the chaos rushing towards him. He just snorted disdainfully. Riot hadn't run far when 4 or 5 tentacles as thick as an arm appeared behind him like chains. Then, he pulled Riot, who was 10 meters tall. Bang! Riot did not expect Venom's counterattack to come so quickly. Due to the inertia, Riot fell heavily on the ground, kicking up a small cloud of dust. Before Riot could fight back, Venom, who was far away, suddenly retracted his tentacles. He flew into the air and landed on Riot's back. Then, there was a dazzling tearing. The larger Riot was like being pounced on by a mad wild dog at this time, and the pain of his body being torn apart quickly occupied all his thoughts. Although Venom in the berserk state still maintained his previous size, his attack power and defense have undergone a qualitative change. Previously, it was the weapons transformed by Venom that couldn't break through Riot's armor. But now, Riot's weapons couldn't hurt Venom's body. Although Riot was still alive at this time, and he was fiercely resisting Venom's bite. However, the overall situation has been decided. Venom's berserk state can only last for more than a minute, but this minute will be the most difficult minute in Riot's life, and it will also be the last minute of his life. When Venom tore Riot's huge body apart and grabbed Riot's body, Venom opened his arms and roared towards the sky. Ah! Venom's furious roar resounded through the world, as if announcing his return to the entire symbiotic demons. Riot, who was thrown aside by Venom, was just about to transform his body again when Venom suddenly pounced on him and devoured him. Devouring him alive. At this time, Riot was not as violent as before. He had lost all ability to resist. Now Riot still had a lot of energy and had enough power to fight back. But Venom didn't care about this at all, he just kept biting Riot's body, devouring the enemy who changed his life bite by bite. All the unwillingness, all the anger, all the hatred, at this time, turned into Venom's appetite, making him devour Riot crazily. When Venom devoured the symbiotic demons the first 2 times, Rog would turn his back, not wanting to witness the cruel and disgusting scene of Venom eating. But this time, he didn't turn around, he just watched Venom eat without saying a word. It didn't take long for Riot's body to be completely devoured by Venom's blood-red eyes, leaving no trace behind. After devouring Riot, Venom stood up silently, his blood-red eyes looked at Rog, then his whole body fell back weakly and completely fainted. It's over. Venom's revenge battle is officially over. Looking at Venom lying motionless on the ground, Rog used wood release to make a half-meter-high wooden bed for Venom, and sat back on the high-back wooden chair. Time passed by little, in Rog's perception, many symbiotic demons gathered outside the wooden cage. Several of the bolder symbiotic demons even had the idea of climbing in. For these symbiotic demons, the strongest was only an ordinary army level. Rog had no intention of making a move, he didn't even have the thought of standing up. In order to dispel the curious thoughts of these symbiotic demons, and also to let Venom have a quiet sleeping environment, he exuded a terrifying aura that was more powerful than the Lord-level symbiotic demons. Of course, when he exuded his aura, he deliberately avoided Venom, who was sleeping. The moment Rog's aura swept through, the symbiotic demons that gathered seemed to have encountered the most terrifying existence in the depths of their souls, and they trembled involuntarily. Then, they showed their fastest speed and fled into the distance without looking back. Not long after, all the symbiotic demons within a 10-mile radius disappeared. After sleeping for more than 6 hours, he finally woke up after swallowing the rioting Venom. Glancing at the wooden bed under him, Venom slowly came to Rog and silently thanked him. "Let's go, we still have 25 symbiotic demons to catch." Originally, there were still 28 symbiotic demons to catch, but when asking about Riot's whereabouts, the 3 symbiotic demons that were asked for directions were also thrown into the summon scroll by Rog. Chapter 291. Can you still devour other symbiotic demons now? Or do you need to digest them first? After leaving the wooden cage, Rog asked Venom. He didn't just say that he wanted to make Venom the strongest Lord-level symbiotic demon, he really intends to do so. After all, if Venom becomes stronger, he can also relax a little. Anytime. Are you going to continue to feed me? He doesn't know if it's because of his successful revenge. Venom's mood at this time is obviously much better than before, and he even took the initiative to joke. "Don't use the word feed, it will make me look a little perverted. But I do have plans to make you stronger, as a gift for your successful revenge." Roger explained simply. He wouldn't tell Venom that this was something he had already decided on a long time ago. "I definitely don't mind devouring a few more Lord-level symbiotic demons, but if you really do this, we may be collectively hunted down by other Lord-level symbiotic demons. Losing 1 or 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons is nothing for the symbiotic demons, it's just a normal replacement phenomenon. But if I continue to hunt other Lord-level symbiotic demons with you, we will become the public enemy of the whole planet." After devouring 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons, Berserk and Berserk, Venom's strength has changed dramatically. Even if he can't compare to Berserk at his peak state, he is not far behind. This also means that the vast majority of Lord-level symbiotic demons will not be his opponent. If he joins forces with Rog, the 2 of them can capture all the Lord-level symbiotic demons in just a few days. The public enemy of the whole planet? Do you still care about this kind of thing? Rog replied with a smile. Since the 2 of them came here from Earth, they have been regarded as invaders of this planet. The public enemy of the planet or something, they have been since the beginning. Of course I don't mind. Venom opened his big mouth full of fangs and smiled. Rog and Venom happily reached a consensus and embarked on the journey to capture other Lord-level symbiotic demons. At the same time, on a mountain peak several hundred kilometers away from them, a Lord-class symbiotic demon that resembled a dinosaur was discussing something with a colossal symbiotic demon that resembled an octopus. The news that Venom had returned and defeated the riot spread throughout the symbiotic planet during the few hours that Venom was asleep. Although the symbiotic demon planet did not have any technological products, when the symbiotic demons gossiped, the speed at which news spread was not any slower than Earth with the internet. The grudge between Venom and Riot was no secret among the symbiotic demons. After all, the matter of Riot tearing apart half of Venom's main body and helping her friend to advance to army level was a big news that was rarely seen in hundreds of years among the cold-hearted symbiotic demons. Many symbiotic demons even suspected that Riot had developed some kind of relationship with his friend that went beyond friendship. This conjecture was also the most popular one back then. If it wasn't for the fact that symbiotic demons were creatures that reproduced asexually, this conjecture would most likely become a reality. The dinosaur symbiotic demon and the octopus symbiotic demon were plotting something, and in other places on the symbiotic planet, different scenes of Lord-class symbiotic demons were also playing out. Venom defeated Riot, which means that Venom has become a Lord-class symbiotic demon. Thinking about the possible outcome of Riot, it was not difficult to guess how strong Venom, a newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon, was. However, these Lord-class symbiotic demons ignored a small problem, that is, before Venom defeated Riot, he also devoured the top 10 Lord-class tyranny. This also led to a problem, that is, the evaluation of Venom's strength by these Lord-class symbiotic demons was generally low. Riot's strength was not outstanding among the Lord-class symbiotic demons, so Venom, who defeated and even devoured him, would not have a high evaluation. If that incident hadn't happened back then, Venom might have been promoted to Lord-class long ago. In a plain, a brown giant symbiotic demon with only one eye said slowly. Opposite him was a black symbiotic demon that looked like a legendary demon. Riot died in the hands of Venom. This is not a big deal. The death of one or two Lord-class symbiotic demons is not a big deal. But I heard that Venom was not the only one who made a move this time. There is also an Earthling beside him. The black symbiotic demon said with some dissatisfaction. No matter how the symbiotic demons fight, it is our race's business. It is indeed inappropriate for an Earthling to intervene. After a few seconds of silence, the brown giant symbiotic demon replied. I'll leave Venom to you, and I'll leave that Earthling to me. I heard that the Earthling's strength is not bad. I want to meet this guy who dared to take the initiative to come to the mother planet to cause trouble. The demon symbiotic demon looked up at the brown giant symbiotic demon and took the initiative to invite him. For Lord-class symbiotic demons, whose lives are simple and boring, there are not many things that can interest them. A newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon and an Earthling who should have some strength are very in line with their standards of having fun. Not only did the demon symbiotic demon have this idea, but other Lord-class symbiotic demons also more or less had this idea. Of course, those Lord-class symbiotic demons who were not as strong as Riot would definitely not have this idea. Then what are we waiting for? If we are late, the fun will become someone else's. As soon as the voice fell, the brown giant symbiotic demon, who was more than 10 meters tall, took the lead and ran in the direction where Rog and Venom were. At the same time, other Lord-class symbiotic demons who were trying to have fun also rushed to the location where Rog and Venom were. On this ordinary day, on this planet, more than 20 Lord-class symbiotic demons made the same choice. At this time, Rog and Venom did not realize that they had now become the hot cakes in the eyes of other Lord-class symbiotic demons. A fresh entertainment that can spice up their boring lives. Half an hour later, Rog felt the life energy signals of 3 Lord-class symbiotic demons. An hour later, the life energy signals of the Lord-class symbiotic demons reached 15. An hour and a half later, the number of Lord-class symbiotic demons that appeared in front of them reached an astonishing 27. Are they here to celebrate your promotion to Lord-class? Looking at the Lord-class symbiotic demons in the distance, each taller than the other, each more peculiar than the other, Rog asked curiously. What do you think? Unlike Rog, who was not nervous at all, Venom at this time was fully alert and entered a combat posture at any time. Chapter 292. 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons appeared together. This kind of phenomenon, even in the entire long history of the symbiotic demons, could be counted on one hand. At the very least, Venom couldn't remember the last time something like this happened. This is what I call the planet's public enemy, Venom said to Rog in an extremely serious tone. While speaking, his eyes didn't dare to leave the Lord-level symbiotic demons in the distance. The lineup is quite big, but this is also quite good. At least after this battle, you can be considered to have completely left your name in the history of the symbiotic demons. The opportunity to leave one's name in history is not something that anyone can have. To be honest, the appearance of these Lord-level symbiotic demons at the same time was indeed a bit beyond Rog's expectations. In his estimation, at most, there would be 2 or 3 Lord-level symbiotic demons who would come to find trouble with them. But it turned out that there were more Lord-level symbiotic demons than he imagined. This kind of opportunity can lead to death. Venom was indeed full of confidence in Rog, but he still didn't think that he and Rog could defeat 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons. No, not only could they not defeat them, they might not even be able to leave alive. 1 or 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together was nothing. 4 or 5 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together could barely deal with it. But 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together, this was no longer a matter of whether they could deal with it or not, but how long they could last. At this time, Venom began to wonder if Rog had some invisible aggro aura on him that could attract so many Lord-level symbiotic demons. People will indeed die, but it will definitely not be you or me. You pick 2 symbiotic demons that meet the devouring standard and deal with them yourself. As for the rest, leave them to me. Rog's tone was as flat as ever, as if he was talking about how to divide the fruits he just bought. After hearing Rog's words, Venom turned his head and looked at him in disbelief. What does that mean? Is he planning to fight against 25 Lord-level symbiotic demons alone? Were all the youngsters nowadays so arrogant? In terms of age, Venom was at least dozens of times older than Rog. From his point of view, it was not an exaggeration to say that Rog was a young man. However, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Rog actually intended to take on 25 Lord-ranked symbiotic demons by himself. 25. Lord Symbiotic Demon. They weren't the soldier class or elite class symbiotic demons that could be seen everywhere. Instead, they were the Lord class symbiotic demons that stood at the pinnacle of the symbiotic demons. They were the famous Lord class symbiotic demons. Venom wasn't the only one who felt that Rog's words were ridiculous. Even the Lord class symbiotic demons on the opposite side were stunned. Although Rog's voice wasn't loud, he purposely used the universal language translator and chakra to transmit his voice so that the Horde leader symbiotic physiques in the distance could hear him clearly. Making sure that the Lord class symbiotic physiques on the other side understood what he was saying was just for the sake of better acting cool. However, unlike Venom, these Lord class symbiotic demons showed a ruthless sneer after hearing Rog's words. What's the matter with this Earthling? Was he out of his mind? After staying on a backward planet like Earth for a long time, does he not know the immensity of heaven and Earth? All kinds of ruthless sneers sounded one after another, and even some Lord-class symbiotic demons made indecent gestures towards Rog that crossed different races and civilizations. Rog didn't take the ridicule of these Lord-class symbiotic demons to heart. He just silently used summoning jutsu to summon the 4th Hokage's White Haori, Disaster Pistol, Flying Thor Kunai, Kusanagi Sword, Dwarf King Ai Choi and other equipment one by one. Amidst the ridicule of the Lord-class symbiotic demons, he unhurriedly put on the armor, and equipped the Disaster Pistol, Flying Thor Kunai, Kusanagi Sword and other weapons. Finally, under the gaze of all the symbiotic demons, he put on the 4th Hokage's White Haori. Venom thought that Rog was just joking with himself to ease the somewhat tense environment. But after seeing Rog fully armed, he suddenly realized that Rog was serious. 1 against 25, he was serious. Have you chosen yet? I'm excited now. Rog didn't intend to make a big scene on the symbiotic demon's planet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only brought 100 containers. But after seeing these 27 Lord-class symbiotic demons appear one after another, he suddenly had the idea of going all out. The last time he went all out was a bit of a long time ago. Warner Protoss's Sea God Njord, Dark Elf King Malekith. It seems that there were only these 2 times. Roger quickly tried to recall what had happened. Dinosaur and Demon. Venom pointed to the 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons. He didn't say the names of the 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons, because if he only said the names, Rog wouldn't know which one it was. No problem, these 2 are yours, as for the rest, they are mine. As soon as his voice fell, the chakra in Rog's body surged wildly, and his whole person instantly entered the battle state. He clapped his hands, and a would-release ninjutsu was cast by him. Would-release, would-clone. On the ground behind Rog, 4 wood carvings that were exactly the same as him suddenly emerged. Then, the 4 wood carvings separated and turned into wood clones that were exactly the same as him. This time, he didn't summon the shadow clone that he usually uses, but summoned the wood clone that has better resistance. Summoning the wood clone, in addition to the outstanding resistance of the wood clone, there is another reason that only he understands. When these 4 wood clones stood on his left and right sides, he did something that he wanted to do for a long time, but he never had the chance to do it. Susanoo. The main body and the 4 wood clones said at the same time, and 5 light blue Susanoo with muscles and meridians appeared at the same time. This is the second stage of Susanoo, and also the peak state that Rog's current Susanoo can reach. At the moment when these 5 Susanoo appeared, Rog's momentum also reached the peak, and his insufferably arrogant momentum instantly swept over all the Lord-class symbiotic demons on the opposite side. At this time, although Rog didn't say a word, he used his momentum to convey a message to the Lord-class symbiotic demons on the opposite side. I'm right here, come at me if you have the guts. Although it's impossible to recreate the famous scene of Uchiha Madara using 25 Susanoo against the 5 Kage, Rog can create his own famous scene. 5 Susanoo against 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons. Chapter 293. 5 Susanoo spread out in a row, coupled with the imposing manner of looking down on the world. Rog used his actions to prove what was called arrogance. Looking at Rog, who took the initiative to provoke them, the Lord-class symbiotic demons in the distance showed an unhappy look. All along, it was only them who looked down on others. When did it become their turn to be looked down upon? And now, it wasn't the symbiotic demons who didn't put them in their eyes. Arrogant, ignorant, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth, although these Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't say anything, they all gave the same evaluation of Rog. As for venom, it was ruthlessly ignored by them. Although Rog's behavior made these Lord-class symbiotic demons very unhappy, they still didn't intend to join forces to attack. If he wanted them to join forces, Rog still needed to show strength worthy of their cooperation. The Susanoo's appearance and imposing manner were impeccable, but just these were not enough to make these Lord-class symbiotic demons join forces to attack. Although Rog didn't know what these Lord-class symbiotic demons were thinking, after seeing that they didn't intend to take the initiative to attack, he made his move. Bang bang bang. Rog raised his disaster pistol and casually fired 3 spiral electromagnetic gun bullets. 3 palm-sized blue and white Rasengan drew 3 straight blue and white lines in the air, instantly arriving in front of these Lord-class symbiotic demons. Then, there were 3 terrifying explosions. Rumble. A terrifying explosion like a supernova instantly appeared. 3 blue and white light balls rose like a mushroom cloud. The dazzling blue and white light instantly occupied the whole sky. An energy storm symbolizing destruction and death crazily swept through everything in the surroundings. Silver-white electric current, astonishing hurricanes, and terrifying shockwaves were born at the same time, jointly creating a scene of doomsday. The earth began to crack, the sky began to lose its color, spiderweb-like cracks and earthquake-like tremors appeared one after another. These Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't expect that Rog could actually release such a powerful attack. What made them even more shocked was that Rog, who released such a powerful energy attack, still looked calm and relaxed. At this moment, they finally understood why Rog dared to say that he would take on 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons alone. They finally understood why Venom, who had fallen to the bottom of his life, was able to rise back to the Lord tier and defeat Riot for revenge. This Earthling had the strength to match his arrogance. The might of the 3 Helix electromagnetic cannons was indeed astonishing, but it was still a little weak to defeat these Lord-class symbiotic demons that had lived for who knew how many years. Even Tyrannical could withstand a spiral railgun by himself and survive. Among these Lord-class symbiotic demons, there were many who were stronger than the tyrant. Moreover, there were more of them, so each of them received less damage. Of course, it was impossible for them to be killed instantly. Rog didn't expect these 3 electromagnetic cannons to kill the Lord-class symbiotic demons. The reason he fired those 3 spiral electromagnetic cannons was to tell these Lord-class symbiotic demons that if they wanted to defeat him, they had to work together. Otherwise, they wouldn't stand a chance. For both sides in a battle, words weren't the only thing that could be used to communicate. Attacks could also be used. Sure enough, as soon as the power of the Helix electromagnetic cannons began to dissipate, 3 or 4 Lord-class symbiotic demons rushed towards him. And behind these 3 or 4 Lord-class symbiotic demons, there was a second attack team. That's right, this is more like it. When these Lord-class symbiotic demons rushed towards him, Rog and the 4 Wood clones performed the same ninjutsu at the same time. Katan, Grand Fire Annihilation. How could he not use Katan to deal with the symbiotic demons? 5 flames converged into a true sea of fire, showing the amazing power to burn the sky and destroy the earth. The surrounding temperature rose rapidly, and the orange-red flames became the undisputed protagonist. The entire plane became as hot as purgatory. The power of Grand Fire Annihilation was unquestionable, but the Lord-class symbiotic demons weren't pushovers either. The terrifying flames and the astonishing temperature could burn the bodies of these Lord-class symbiotic demons, but it couldn't stop them from advancing. Just a few seconds after Logue finished casting Grand Flame Extinguisher, a few Lord-tier symbiotic demons rushed out of the sea of fire and arrived in front of Logue. These Lord-class symbiotic demons that arrived in front of him had different forms. In addition to the common humanoid and bestial forms, Rog also saw a relatively rare insect form. This was a Lord-class symbiotic demon that looked like a praying mantis. But it was different from ordinary praying mantis. This symbiotic demon was more than 6 meters tall, and had 4 sickle-like forelimbs. For a symbiotic demon, any form wasn't a problem. The only problem was that the form they took wasn't in line with their own aesthetics, and it wasn't suitable for them to display their strength. When these Lord-class symbiotic demons arrived in front of them, Rog and the Wood clones still didn't intend to move. Instead, they condensed chakra into Susanoo weapons. In the blink of an eye, 10 chakra swords appeared in Susanoo's hands. Double sword flow, Susanoo. Without any command, the moment the chakra sword was formed, the 5 Susanoos simultaneously transformed into a dual-blade swordsmanship master. Dang 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 dang. The sound of metal colliding continued to resound, and the chakra in Susanoo's hand continuously hit the body of the Lord-level symbiotic body. And the weapons of these suzerain symbiotic demons also arrived at Susanoo's body one after another. Just like that, a primal and exquisite close combat battle began. Blades flashed and swords flashed, blood and flesh flew everywhere. Although the body of the Lord-level symbiotic demons was comparable to steel, but in front of Susanoo's chakra swords, they were still very fragile. At this time, Susanoo was like a violent and skilled butcher, crazily stabbing and slashing these Lord-class symbiotic demons in front of it. No matter what kind of weapon these Lord-class symbiotic demons transformed into, no matter what kind of body they transformed into, the chakra swords in Susanoo's hands would cut their weapons, cut their bodies, and leave one astonishing wound after another on their body. This kind of fighting style may be useful for others, but for Rog, who used Susanoo, it didn't have any meaning. With the protection of Susanoo, these Lord-class symbiotic demons couldn't even touch him, let alone injure him. This was Susanoo, the third kind of power that could only be unlocked after awakening Mangekyo Sharingan. This was the power of God. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.